So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us for the Zoho Finance Seminar Day 3. We do have a great cast today. We have Zenatta and Cornerstone Solutions over here kind of talking to us about Zoho Solutions, analytics, and beyond really, because Susan Clark will kind of go over more than just analytics, which is going to be a really great session for everybody who is here today. So before we go over that, anybody who's new today, we'll go over do a Showtime overview. So we have our questions panel, which that would be the place where you can ask us questions. We have our support in the back, and also Zenatta will be here, so they'll be able to answer some questions as well, either live or kind of after their analytics session's over. We have our polls area where we'll be asking polls throughout the session for CPE credits, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. We have chats as well where you can tell us, hey, your volume's not working, or you can tell us your favorite vacation spot or your favorite food. But typically during the session, it's more related to the session, what's going on. We also have a bunch of great handouts today. We have Zenatta's newsletter in there. We have Zenatta's YouTube page. We have Susan Clark, Cornerstone Solutions webpage, and she also gave us two great handouts over Zoho Books and Zoho Books admin. So please go check those out. There's a lot of great resources in there, and definitely download them before the session's over, that you can have them forever. So let's do a few housekeeping items over the CPE credits. So today's session does qualify for 3 CPE credits. You have to attend for 150 minutes, pretty much the whole session, and complete 9 out of the 12 polling questions. And I'm going to go ahead and launch the first polling question just because we have a lot to cover today. And this is what the polling question will look like. And all you have to do is just answer it, and I can display the results so everyone can see after. I'll give it about 10 seconds or so. But yeah, so did you attend day 1 or day 2 of the seminar? So yes, both, just day 1, just day 2, and this is my first day. So if it's your first day, I'm happy to see you here, and we couldn't do this without you guys and gals. Really appreciate it. So let's go ahead and continue on. And if you missed the question, you can always go back into the polls area and pull it up and answer it that way as well if you need those CPE credits. And for those of you who do not know what a CPE is, it's for continued professional education. That's something CPAs need every year to keep their CPA license. So we also ask that you fill out the poll question, even if you don't need a CPE credit, just because it keeps you engaged and it helps us kind of gauge what to talk about whenever we're starting our discussions. And lastly, please complete the evaluation if you need a CPE, and that will kind of let me know who needs a CPE, and I'll be able to send that to you after the session, and I'll send that today. So I'll go ahead and introduce the finance team, the Zoho finance team real quick. So my name is Nathan Rogerson. If you've seen me throughout the couple days, I do marketing and business development over here for Zoho, and I'm happy to be here. My background's about 5 years in accounting. And yeah, the session's been great, and I really appreciate everybody who's attended and presented. It's really helped us out a lot, and it wouldn't be possible without our customers and great partners like Zenatta and Cornerstone. And we also have D-Raj. He's our lead accountant program over here at Zoho. D-Raj, are you there?
Yeah, Nathan, I can hear you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the session. So I've been with Zoho for 6 years now, and my role is to help partners implement our finance suite of applications for their clients and make sure they're able to drive the full results out of our products.
Yeah, thanks, D-Raj. And we have Val, our resident CPA, and you've seen him as much as you've seen me, I'm sure, if you've been to more than one of our webinars. So Val, how are you doing?
Good. And folks, welcome. I've been in this accounting technology world for 35 plus years. And throughout these days, one of the key messages I hope you're learning is what's really here. What does Zoho offer? And why would I leave a company that I started, 30 years ago when I was a partner in that firm to join Zoho and help them build out this accountants program? Short answer there is because I think this is the future. What Zoho has going on with their solutions and their suite is the future. So I'm thrilled we were able to bring some of that to your attention this week.
Yeah, thanks for that, Val. And let's kind of go over, well, today we'll start off with Zenatta and Intro to Advanced Analytics for Zoho Books. And they actually, a quick thing about them, and I'll let them introduce themselves, is they have a great YouTube channel and a great newsletter where you can learn a lot about Zoho. I believe, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're the only Zoho YouTube channel out there, kind of Zoho channel where all they talk about is just essentially Zoho. And so it's really great resources out there. And as far as our newsletter, it goes out once a week, and it's really a great educational piece as well. So let's go ahead and have Brett and Tyler introduce themselves. Brett, how are you doing?
I am fantastic, Nathan, and I can see why you grew a beard. I was looking at your picture there. You must have gotten carded a lot going, so you just had to get that beard going. I'm great. Thank you for the nice introduction. We're not the only Zoho exclusive independent YouTube channel out there. There's a couple others. I'll give a shout out to Lior Izak up in Canada. The guy does a fantastic job on his channel as well. But thank you for the shout out. But yeah, if you want to subscribe to our channels, we produce actually more content on YouTube most weeks than Zoho. So there's a lot going on over there, and it's kind of worth taking a look at. And if you just go to our website, Zenatta.com, right on the homepage there, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can go ahead and subscribe to our newsletter. The newsletter basically is just a roundup of all that happened in Zoho last week. And you think, wow, that's a lot. Well, we actually do a whole podcast around that called the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about nothing but what happened in Zoho last week. And sometimes they go like for an hour. So there's a lot that happens in the world of Zoho, but we're really happy to be here. And this is going to be a really nice presentation. I actually won't be doing much on this presentation, actually nothing. Tyler's going to drive this entire thing and go through it all. Tyler, if you need a break, just, raise your hand to flag out there, and I'll come on and entertain while you take a sip of water or something. But want to thank Zoho and the finance team so much for having us here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. And Tyler, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Oh, sorry, I caught you.
No, you were all good.
Yeah, let him have a sip of water, and then we'll catch him in the middle of a sip of water.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Okay, awesome. So I'll transfer control over to you, Tyler, and you'll be able to take it from here. Cool. All right. And you have it. All right. Perfect. And we're going to turn off our cameras until we have a time to speak again, like for a poll question or whenever it's our turn to speak. So thanks, Tyler.
Yeah, you got it. Alrighty, so with that, let's kind of get right into it here. I know there's a lot to get through today, so I don't want to run over on our time. So, we're going to cover a handful of core topics about Zoho Analytics and how it ties into Zoho Books, as well as the rest of the finance suite. Core topics that we're going to get through here are why do you need business intelligence? We'll walk through setting up data sources and how to actually get your data into analytics. We'll dive into just how analytics is set up, meaning, how things are organized, how to find what you're looking for. And then we'll go through a couple examples of putting together a chart, a pivot table, and then rolling things up into a dashboard. So to get right into it, why BI? Why is it worth investing time to build out a more robust analytics solution? Well, all of you being in the accounting space, you've probably used a lot of different accounting softwares, whether it's QuickBooks, Xero, the whole gambit. And oftentimes in those tools, you will have the ability to pull some reports, sales by item, sales by salesperson, purchases over time. But oftentimes you might be missing certain abilities to create more contextualized or actionable reports. And we'll use that term kind of frequently throughout this presentation about how to create a report that's actionable and gives you information that you can, take follow-up steps on to improve your business. So the trick to BI is it's just giving you more insight into the data that you're already collecting in your accounting tools. So with that, we'll kind of jump right into the actual steps here as you would get started with Zoho Analytics. So as we open up a fresh Zoho Analytics account, the first thing that we'll need to do is make sure that we're in a proper organization. If you are set up under Zoho 1, where you have a license for all of the applications, that should be done for you by default. Once you've just quickly checked that organization, we'll go ahead and import data. So for those who kind of work in the BI space or have used these tools before, You can think about each workspace that we're going to put data into kind of like a data mart, where I could pull from various different sources, my CRM, my accounting tools, my marketing tools, and house all of that data in one consolidated environment. In this use case here, we're just going to walk through importing from the finance suite. As we open up the import settings, we'll see a whole variety of different tools. So even though Zoho Analytics is a Zoho product, you can, of course, pull things like Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, HubSpot. You can actually pull in QuickBooks and Xero as well if you were using those tools for your accounting. Of course, you should switch to Zoho, but it is a pretty robust tool where you can pull from anywhere, really. In this case, we'll go ahead and set up our sync for Zoho Books. Really, it'll give you a quick little overview here. So what you'll need to do is authenticate the Books account. We'll need to select the individual modules and fields that we want to pull into Zoho Analytics. And then we can go ahead and get started in creating our reports. So what we'll need to do first is select our organization. If you were at a company that had multiple corporate entities, you may have multiple Zoho Books organizations so that you can maintain a separate books for each of those different companies. In this case, we just have the one, so we'll pull in one organization. But if you did have multiple, you could actually pull them all into one master workspace. Once we've chosen our organization, we're going to drop off on a page here where we'll be selecting what individual data points we want to pull into analytics. So on the left-hand side here, we'll see that I've selected the customers module, and then I've turned on the syncing for the field of email, right? Because I know I want to use that later to maybe, compare my books data to data from somewhere else, and I can line up customers based on their email address. And so you'll want to go through each of your modules and make sure you have each of the fields that you need. And then the other kind of element here is that you may need to turn on particular modules altogether, right? So in this case, purchase orders was not being pulled into analytics by default. So I can just go ahead and scroll down on the modules list and check that box to go ahead and activate that sync. Once you've done that and you've selected OK, it'll go ahead and start pulling in all of that data. Depending on how long you've been using Zoho Books, this can take anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll go ahead and do the, Martha Stewart, pull it out of the oven once it's done here. And we'll skip past that waiting period and imagine that our data has now synced into analytics. And so with that, we've kind of walked through the core steps here to getting a data source in, which is basically to select your data source, select any of the modules and fields, and then go ahead and turn it on. And it really is just about that easy. No necessary work needs to be done with any APIs or complicated syncs with some server in the middle. So the next step, we'll be talking through the workspace and kind of how to navigate around. But Nathan, it looks like you have a question or poll.
Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and launch our second poll question. Appreciate that, Tyler.
Yeah.
I remember last time I just stayed up the whole time. So this is a lot nicer how I can just pop up and kind of let you know. Yeah. So have you ever used a BI tool before? So really, if you haven't, this is a great session for you to be a part of and understand the benefits of it, definitely. And if you have, welcome. Definitely if you've used another BI tool that's not Zoho Analytics, which it seems like we have about 12% of y'all who haven't. So that's great to see you here for sure. You'll see that Zoho Analytics does not lack any of its abilities. So awesome. So it looks like the majority of everybody answered. So Tyler, you're good to go.
Perfect. So yeah, now we'll kind of just go through and do a tour of the workspace. So now you've got all of your data in, and you're going to start taking a look at just what exactly is within that environment. So over on the left-hand side here, we'll kind of walk down some of these tabs. The Explorer tab is kind of your top-down view of everything that's in your workspace, whether that's your raw data, your reports, or your dashboards, where we've kind of combined multiple reports onto one page. This Explorer interface can be, expanded and contracted based on all the different folders. If you do get started, make sure to be organized with your folders from the get-go. It will save you much pain and suffering later. So I could open up these folders and kind of scroll through things that way to find what I'm looking for. Or up at the top here, I can search. So if I knew I was looking for a report based on invoices, I could just search for invoice, and that's going to pull down every single different report or data source referencing invoices. Now over here, we'll take a quick look at the data. So all of the different data from the applications that you're pulling into analytics come in basically as spreadsheets, right? So here I've got a sheet of all of my invoices, right? With my invoice number, the date, the invoice status, all these various important identifiers for an invoice. What you'll notice looking at the invoices table is that we don't see items and quantities. And that's because those are stored in a separate table called invoice items. And those invoice items are going to store an invoice ID as one of their columns. And that's how Zoho Analytics is going to line these up so that if I wanted to have a report of invoices and their items, these relationships have already been made for me. So for those who are kind of familiar with data management and databasing, very little SQL or SQL code will be required to format your data for a lot of the core reporting. So everything that we're showing today is done without any additional SQL code. Now, sometimes you might have a really creative or kind of crazy idea for a report where you might have to write some code to kind of get the data how you need it. But most of the time, you're going to have all of these relationships with your IDs stored where you need them. Next, we'll go ahead and take a look at a couple reports. Reports kind of break down into either pivot tables or summary tables, as well as a variety of different charts. So if we were just to open up a couple oddball reports here, we've got top 10 customers by sales. In this demo account, we just have 2 customers, Billie Eilish and Billy Idol. So we can see kind of a breakdown of their different revenues. And then, of course, we could look at this report in more of a pivot view where we're looking at things tabularly and looking at some quantities and subtotals, with expanding and collapsing via a pivot view. Lastly here, as you have all these various reports, you're going to think through, I've got these 5 reports. I don't want to dig them out individually every time I need to review them or answer some questions. And so you might find yourself compiling some dashboards. Dashboards are basically a way to take a whole bunch of different reports and put them on one page. And then on that page, we can even add filters that will apply to all of those different reports, right? So if I were to grab this and filter it on item name, every single component underneath this is all going to filter together. On dashboards, you can also create widgets and kind of call outs like this. Oftentimes we find if you're creating a report for kind of admin or C-suite level, you definitely want to include a lot of these widgets, just give them that top down, and then they could always scroll down to get more granular data if they'd like to see it. And then lastly here, of course, any different reports or charts that we've created can be included directly on these dashboards. And so really there, that kind of sums up the core elements of a workspace. You have your raw data, you have your reports, whether those are charts or pivots, and then you have your dashboards where you have combined various reports onto one page for easier viewing. It looks like I'm good to continue, so we'll go ahead and jump right into working with charts. Now, for a lot of these examples, as we're creating charts and then creating pivot tables, we're going to be focused on invoice data. You can think about doing the same thing with your purchasing data, your expense data, really anything like that. But I thought it would be good to have a consistent theme as we go through with these invoice reports. So let's say I wanted to create kind of some basic reports here. Up in the top left, you've got your create button. That's kind of the master create. So if you wanted to create a chart or a pivot or really any different kind of report, all of those are going to be created through that consolidated button. So here we'll go ahead and create a chart view. In that chart view, we'll pick our base table. Now, it's important to know that I'm going to choose invoices as my base table here, but I can also include data from invoice items if I choose to. So you're not married to just using data from your base table. You can also pull from any related tables to that. So here I'll start with invoices. Over on the left-hand side are going to be all of the different data points that I can use based on the base table that I've chosen. So in this case, I've chosen invoices as my base table. But an invoice, as we would expect, links to a customer, right? And an invoice may have been converted from an estimate. And an invoice is sold by a salesperson, right? So over here on the left-hand side, we're basically seeing all of these various things that an invoice may link to. Now, we're going to create a kind of simple report at first. So we'll open up our invoices section, and now we're seeing all these different fields with any of these different field types. So dates, text, numbers. And let's say that we wanted to create a report for the invoiced revenue by month. So kind of just a simple one here. So from the left-hand side, I'll pull in invoice date and drop that in on my x-axis. And then I'll use the subtotal of my invoices for my y-axis. The reason I'm using subtotal here is that our absolute total is going to include tax. And most of the time, we don't really want to count that if we're doing some like sales reporting. We don't want to overstate our real sales. Now, within each of these parameters, we have the ability to choose how we want them to look. So for an invoice date, sometimes I might want to report on things by year, by quarter, by month, or by week. So I can actually just expand this little drop down and choose the appropriate option. In this case, I'll just keep it by month. And then down here under our y-axis, we can do a similar thing with any of the values that we're going to look at there. So I could say I want to look at a sum of my subtotals, a maximum, an average, right? Any of those kind of common functions that you'd want to run here. And so now that I've created that, right, it's dropped in just a quick little report here of our invoiced amount month over month. Now we're kind of get into some of the preferences and ways that you can adjust these reports based on how you like to view things. So up here at the top of the page, we have this little running list of different options for views. Now, in this case, you could look at this as a line chart. Because we're actually looking at each month discretely versus the other months, I would recommend doing something like this via a bar chart. And so here I'll switch this over to a bar chart under our little list of options. And now we kind of see a view that's just a little bit cleaner. It kind of helps you see the differences between months better. Where here you're kind of seeing a trend between them, and it might make September look bigger than it is because your eye tracks with that line. Whereas here we see nice discrete values month over month. Now up at the top of the page, of course, it's always time to save. As with any software tools, save early and save often. And now that we've saved this, it's going to give us the option to give it a name as well as put it in a folder. So in this case, I'm putting it into a custom books reporting folder so that I know these are reports that I've made and they're separate from any of the default reports that Zoho has made as I've initially turned on Zoho Analytics. And so up in the top right, we might realize that, we look at this and we see our, the label here of our x-axis is month and year of invoice date, and the label of our y is total of subtotal, right? And so we might want to do a little cleanup and a little bit of renaming on some of the report elements. So using the settings in the top right, we can open up kind of a top-down view of any kind of configuration changes that we'd like to make to this chart. So under our axis settings, I can go ahead and rename our axes. And then down at the very bottom, there's an important checkbox that 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to check it on any type of report like this. And that's to show the corresponding y-axis label as a data label on the chart. And that's a lot of words that basically just means it's going to put the total number on top of each of the bars so that you can see it without having to kind of, pretend to draw a line sideways and connect it to a y-axis value. Now in this report, it's pretty simple to kind of just look at this without the numbers. But as you're doing more and more complicated reporting, you're going to find that that will help you out a lot. Now that we've kind of done some of the initial configuration, we'll go ahead up to the top right and switch this over to view mode. That's basically going to make it full screen for us so we can kind of see what it would look like to a user that's viewing the report. Back to our editing, if we think through some more reports that we might want to make, right? So first we've got this invoiced revenue by month, and that's nice, right? It gives us our total revenue month over month, and we can see if there's a trend or if we're on track, but it doesn't give us anything that's highly actionable, right? Because of course we always want more revenue, right? So the only action we can take based on this report is I want these bars to be higher. How do we sell more? But if you start getting a little bit more granular, we might want to look at something like salesperson invoiced revenue by month to see if certain salespeople are overperforming or underperforming compared to others. And so here, over on the left-hand side, I can open up our tab for salesperson's data, and I can grab the name and drag it into the color section here. Sometimes with Zoho Analytics, these labels might be a little bit confusing. Generally, color will be like a way to slice and dice your y-axis values in a chart. So I'm basically saying here, group my subtotals by the person's name and color code them that way. And so now that I've done that, I have a different looking report here. So now I'm seeing 2 bars in each month, one for Ben Atta and one for Zenatta, our very creatively named demo users here. Now this is good. It now shows us the comparison, but if I'm looking at this, I might notice that I've actually lost a key piece of information by doing this. And that's the total revenue within a particular month. And so in order to resolve that, I can go back to our settings here for choosing the way that we want to display our chart. And I might want to change this to a vertical stacked bar. Now, anyone on the Zenatta team will know that I love vertical stacked bars because they give us a way to see an overall trend as well as the composition that makes up that trend. So now I'm seeing more interesting data around these different users and how their individual revenue is contributing to our total. So I may find that I actually have a user that's underperforming or overperforming a different user. And so now that I've kind of got things to a place where I'm happy with how this looks, I feel good about the ability to see an overall trend as well as the composition of that trend. Now it's time to fine tune just a little bit. So if I start thinking about how this report could actually lead me astray, one thing I might think about is this report including any invoices that it shouldn't, right? And so I might want to go back to our edit and open up our filters and start adding some filters to this report. And so one filter that I definitely would want to add is a filter for our invoice status, right? So if I was looking at this, I might want to say, hey, I don't want to include invoices that have been voided out, because by default, those invoices are still going to exist in analytics because you might want to report later of voided invoices, but I don't really want them to count towards my invoiced revenue reporting. And so I can go ahead and filter those out. So I've selected void in our invoice status. And then over on the right-hand side here, I've changed it over to exclude those items, right? So now I'm not counting revenue from voided invoices anymore. And we'll see if we look before and after here, it's actually adjusted our numbers. So the Zenatta actually lost about $3,000 of revenue in October because that invoice got voided. And now you'll notice that I did this in a particular order, and I did it that way on purpose, right? Where I got the core stuff about the report that I know I wanted, and I added that in. And I wasn't really thinking a lot about accuracy or filtering or, getting too specific. I was just trying to get things into our x-axis, y-axis, and color to give me the broad strokes of the report that I want. Then once I feel good about that, I come back and I start filtering and slicing and further kind of reducing what counts towards this report. I recommend that you do it that way, especially as you get started, so that you don't get lost in the nitty-gritty about these little filters and things like that. And you're more focused on just getting things set up in a way you're happy with, and then doing kind of iterative cycles of cleaning up the data with these filters. I know it's been another about 15 minutes. Nathan, do you want me to pause here before I go into a next report, or should I just go ahead?
You can go ahead. I'll launch the third one right whenever you're talking about dashboards.
Perfect. Everyone can see I need a haircut. My hair is starting to curl over here throughout the presentation. It drifts towards the center of my head.
Oh, don't worry.
Folks, as you're building these reports too with analytics, like Tyler's saying, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're going to have a lot of reports that you build and learn from and just throw away. But it's important to get in there and get started and start learning, because you think you know what you need, but truth is you're going to end up, like, I think I need to be here, and you're going to often be clear over here or sometimes just off. So just keep doing iterations like he's talking about and different versions, and don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't think you've got to get it all right on the first pass, because you're not. I guarantee it.
Perfect. Let's get right back into it here. So let's say we wanted to make another report here looking at our product sales by month, right? And we'll go through this kind of quickly because it's similar to our previous report. But again, now we'll actually look at one of these related items. So into the x-axis, I've dropped our invoice date, just like I did before, and that came from the Invoices module. But in this case, I might want to get some sales data based on each individual product. And now I'm highlighting this because it's very important in this case that I use the subtotal from invoice items, not from invoices. Because if I use the subtotal from invoices, it's going to give me that subtotal times the number of items, because it's going to repeat that for each individual row. And so here I've pulled in our subtotal into the y-axis from our invoice items, as well as our item name. And here I've kind of chosen these similar types of steps. We go into our view mode, right? We've got a similar report. We're looking at our stacked bar here. So we see our total trend. And then we're also seeing those item sales broken out individually. So I can see that over the past 3 months, it looks like product B has become a more consistent or significant contributor to our product mix. So I might look at a report like this and go, how do we capitalize on that, right? Because it used to be, 15 or 20% of our revenue, but now it's up to about a third. Why did that happen? And can we capitalize on that further? And so we're looking at these total trends while also taking into account what are the components that make up those trends as a whole. And so next here, we'll jump into working with pivot tables. Again, pretty similar in terms of the UI, and we can jump right in. So again, using our kind of master create button in the top left, we'll go ahead and make a pivot view. And let's say we want to give a tabular version of a kind of similar report that we made earlier. So maybe we want to look at salesperson invoiced revenue by month. So here, I'm going to start adding in different values into the rows. And when you're thinking about a pivot table, the rows in Zoho Analytics are going to be your grouping factors. And they're going to group from the top to the bottom of the list. So in this case, the most primary grouping that I want to look at is the report by salesperson. So I'll grab that from our salesperson's table. And then I'll also grab the invoice date from invoices and add that as the second row in this table. Lastly, I'll grab the subtotal from the invoices and put that into the data column. So the data column here within a particular pivot table is going to be the things that you want to sum or average or max based on the groupings. Again, we'll just fly through this part. We've added our same filter here for invoice status, where we're excluding any invoices that are void. And now we can go ahead and take a look at our report. And so we'll see here that we've got our different groupings for name and invoice. Again, left to right in the, or actually I'm mirrored. So left to right in the pivot table is going to be top to bottom in our rows. And then we have the total for each month, as well as the total for the salesperson as a whole, right? And so you're able to kind of see both an individual line item and a total grouping for each of your different row factors. Now, there's one other thing that I might want to look at in terms of this report. And maybe I wanted to look at, okay, so they've got all this revenue out here, but how much of it has actually been paid and how much of it is actually still open? And so down in the very, very bottom left, there are things called aggregate formulas. Aggregate formulas inside of Zoho Analytics are very, very useful. They're basically a way to create different functions that will run more complicated sums or averages or maxes than what we can do just with our default data column. So right here, it's just going to give me a flat sum of all of the subtotals from invoices that are not void based on our filters. But if I want to go a level deeper and say, show me the total that's paid or the total that's not paid, I might need to do a sum if. So I want to add a criteria to that sum. So to do things like that, I'll go ahead and open up the aggregate formula builder. I'll give this a name. So I'll call it paid invoice amount. and I'll choose the particular data type. So I want this to display as a currency. Now I started typing sum, and it actually opened up some suggestions, and it does a really good job at this. So I've opened up a sum, and it's given me an option for just a normal sum, but I could do that without an aggregate function, so I don't need to use that. But it's also given me this sum if, where I'm able to first define a condition, and if that condition is met, then I want to take the sum of the column that I input. If you see here before this pop-up comes up, over here on the right-hand side under functions, it gives us a list of everything that you have available. Again, if you are a SQL user or SQL user, these will look very familiar. They are literally SQL functions, and they work identically. So if you're comfortable with those, the aggregate formulas are going to work for you, no problem. In addition, as you're selecting them, it does give you a breakdown of exactly what to put where and how to do it, as well as an example down at the bottom. So it does make it pretty easy to kind of play with these and figure out what you're looking for. So here I'm starting to build my sum if, where first I'm going to need to add a condition. So if I'm looking to get the paid invoice amount, then I want to filter this where invoice status identifies that it's been paid. And so over here on the right-hand side under columns and under invoices, I'll go ahead and select our invoice status and add that in as a condition. And so here now, if we read this left to right, basically what this says in English is give me the sum of the subtotal if the invoice status is closed. Otherwise, count that as 0. And so from there, now we have the ability to say, in a report that's including things that are not closed, I want one column that only counts things that are closed. And so if you're doing comparisons where you can't filter the full chart to get this value, you'll oftentimes need to break things into these aggregate formulas. And so now here, now that we've created an aggregate formula, it'll be over here on our left-hand side here down in the very bottom left, that paid invoice amount. We can go ahead and drag that into our report. And now we have another column here that shows of the total that was invoiced, what's actually been paid. And so you'll find that there are a lot of different use cases for these types of aggregate fields. You know, you might want to do a count if, a sum if, you know, maybe you want to take an average of invoices that contain a certain product, right? And all these different types of ways of kind of slicing and dicing your data. And so you'll find a lot of different use cases for running those types of functions. Alrighty. And so now here back to our view mode, we basically see that we've got that paid amount. And you can start to look, if we're looking at our sales reps of the amount that's been invoiced in a month, what have we actually received on? And so, you know, as you'd expect, the older months, you've received more of it. And as you get to newer months, you're going to have received less of it. Now, here's one last little report that we find is pretty universally useful, especially for organizations where, you know, salespeople are sending out invoices on their own and kind of creating these different sales opportunities. So oftentimes you might want to answer the question, do I have sales reps that are over invoicing clients to inflate their revenue numbers, right? And are invoicing people too early, or for product that they don't need, or for product that might not have actually been confirmed by that customer, right? Because if you've got all these invoices being created that aren't realistically ever going to be paid, it can inflate your expectations of how much revenue you're going to be bringing in, right? And so you might want to start to answer some of these questions. And an aging invoices report is a pretty standard way to do that. So here, again, into our rows and data, we've added the salesperson name, just like we did before, as well as the subtotal of the invoices. But now in this case, we're doing one new thing here, which is to add a column identifier. And so a column identifier is going to basically group things rather than these top to bottom rows. It's going to do groupings with left to right columns. And this age in days parameter is actually something that Zoho Analytics does for us automatically. So I don't have to calculate that. Zoho Analytics and its integration with Zoho Books has a lot of stuff done for you. right? So this age in days, I don't need to make a formula. I don't need to do an aggregate. It just comes out of the box. And so I've added that here to our columns. And again, I've only included invoices in this case for our filters where things are overdue, because in this case, if something's been closed, it shouldn't be a aging invoice. And if it's open, that means it has a future invoice date. So we haven't expected that the client would have paid it at this time. And so here, looking at our age in days value, right, we can choose to group it as a dimension, which would be each individual age in days would be its own column. But in this case, maybe I want to create a range, maybe 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, to kind of see things in different kind of age groups. And so under the range, I can add a new range. And here I'll give it a range size of 10, right? So we'll do that exact thing, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and group up our invoice ages that way. And so now that I've done that here, we can actually see that our different salespeople are behaving pretty differently. If we look at Zenatta, they don't really have a lot of really old aging invoices sitting out there. Whereas Zenatta, there seems to be this trend where about $4,000 each month or each 10 days is going out and not really getting paid. And so this is one of those examples of an actionable insight where I can actually look at this data and go, the way that Zenatta is sending invoices is probably better than the way that Zenatta is sending invoices. So how do we do an information transfer to bring Zenatta up to speed so that we don't have so much revenue sitting in these aging invoices?
Another thing too, a typical company, Tyler, is going to look at this and say, well, Zenatta is selling more, total sales. He's selling more, but he's probably overselling the product. He's probably misrepresenting the product, overselling the product, doing stuff like that. We had that happen with our little firm. We were installing a lot of medical systems and information systems. We had a person in our firm overstating stuff, yet huge numbers of sales. And so I love this in that you can see if we're having trouble collecting on sales by salesperson, that shows us who's doing a really good job of, like you say, invoicing, communicating clearly with the client, but also setting proper expectations throughout the entire engagement.
Definitely. Yeah. So I appreciate that, and kind of poor Zenatta, he might be getting a talk to by Brett here in a little bit. But but anyways, if you go to the next slide, I'll go and launch the third poll question. And yeah, so what are ways you can improve your business with a BI tool? And that's a good example, really, Tyler. And we talk about that a lot, is how we can merge CRM and our accounting tools all in one place, so that, as a CEO, CFO, president of a company, they can really analyze and see what's happening underneath. Definitely whenever the AR aging is not really clearing up, and at the end of the year, you have all these unpaid invoices, it can be a little concerning for sure. So what are ways you could improve your business with a BI tool? Obviously, a lot of people are interested in ability to connect data with multiple sources. And that's one thing that's so great about Zoho Analytics, is how it integrates with so many tools, internal and external, which is awesome. Obviously more than one, because analytics is used for more than one thing, and it can solve a lot of issues. I saw someone in the questions panel have an issue with 1099s and said it was hard, but they were able to figure out some sort of report to get that taken care of. That's awesome. I've seen a lot of people do like cash flow reports too through analytics, which is really great and unique. But yeah, so I'll give us about 5 more seconds, and then we'll finish up Tyler's slides, his presentation, and then we'll get in for a little discussion. Great. All right, thanks everyone. And Tyler, you're good.
Perfect. Alrighty, so now kind of the last piece here. So we've created a couple charts, we've created a couple pivot tables. Now we actually want to make this usable, right? Because if we have to look at all of these individually, we're going to be clicking around in analytics, we're going to get frustrated, and we're going to give up. And so what we want to do is put all of these onto one single dashboard. So again, using our create button to end all create buttons up in the top left, we'll click that. It'll open our tab to create a dashboard. And so the dashboard here is going to start off pretty blank slate. And so the first thing we'll start to do is over here on the left-hand side, we've got our different folders where we put our reports. And so this is where it's important that, you create good folder structure or at least some level of organization from the get-go. Because one nice thing about Zoho Analytics is that when you plug it into almost any tool that it has a connector for, it will have the option to create a ton of default reports for you. And that's a great thing because you can use those, you can work from those as a baseline, right? And kind of skip over some of the initial steps and make some edits. But if you start creating a lot of your own custom stuff, you don't want it to blend in with those default reports. And so what we can do over here on the left-hand side is just actually click and drag from the left-hand side directly into the right-hand where we're creating our dashboard. And so here I've grabbed that salesperson invoiced revenue by month, and we've added it to our page. What we'll see is that it's way too small. So we'll go ahead and grab in the bottom right corner and just click to expand it out, right? So it's kind of got that WYSIWYG editor feel where you're, dragging and dropping and just moving things around. Then we'll also grab the product sales by month and add that here. I want to highlight something that is just really useful as you're getting these dashboards set up. If you select one component, down at the bottom, you can copy the dimensions of that component and paste it to another. So if you're going to add a bunch of charts and you want them all to be identical in sizing, then you can go ahead and just get one dialed in and then copy paste that dimension to all of the rest of the components. And so now here I've got my two kind of tabular or two chart reports here. Maybe I want to get this thing organized, right? And I want to give some headers. So up at the top, I can go ahead and add a text identifier. This will open up just a text editor. You can actually put HTML, rich text, images, things like that within the editor. In this case, I'm going to use it to create a name for a section. And so I've given this top section a name. And now down here below, I can do the same thing with our pivot tables. So I've given a text header for our pivot table breakdowns, and then I've dragged in our salesperson invoice revenue as well as aging invoices. Now you'll notice that I did this in an order, and I did it this way on purpose, where I put the pretty colorful charts at the top and then the raw data at the bottom for those that wish to dig into it. Now, that might not always be the case, but when you're creating a dashboard, you want to think about who is going to use it and if multiple different types of people are going to use it, right? Where a director of sales or a VP of sales might just want some of this top-down information versus other people at your company might want to dig in a little bit further to more of the granular information that you want to display on the dashboard. So you want to think about your target market, if you will, for the dashboard you're creating and put things in an order based on who is going to view them. Now, there's a couple extra things we can do here. So we can add user filters to dashboards, where a user filter gives the ability to the person viewing it to assign filters on the fly. So maybe I want to give them the ability to just filter this whole dashboard based on a salesperson. So on the left-hand side, I can go ahead and just drag that right into the dashboard. And now there's one other really, really useful filter on our dashboards that is not actually part of any individual data table. So at the very top there, you'll see that include timeline filter. And the idea behind the timeline filter is that it should ideally be the only date filter that is on your dashboard. And I'll show you how to set it up in just a moment. But you really should only need that one. You don't want to have a report that has a filter for estimate date and a filter for invoice date and a filter for sales order date and purchase date and all these different dates on one dashboard because it gets really unwieldy to work with. So now that we've kind of done the baseline here and added in the user filters that we want, we can do some customization to them. So here I'm going to go ahead and edit the name filter. It's going to pull up this little settings box. Maybe I want to rename it and call it salesperson, because name could be product name, it could be customer name, right? So we want to give this a specific and identifying name. So we'll call it salesperson. And then I could choose if I want to give them the ability to just select one or to select multiple different people within this filter. Lastly, we only have 2 in this case, but if I had a bunch of different salespeople and I didn't want to include all of them on this dashboard, I could choose to only include specific values from my list. Next, we'll go ahead and take a look at the timeline filter. So with the timeline filter here, it works primarily based on relative values, where a relative date value is saying this week, this month, last week. You're not specifying, week 40 of 2021. You're just saying last week based on whatever the current date is. And so oftentimes I like to add some additional ones to the timeline filter. So I might go into the months section and add previous month and last 3 months, for example. And then over on the left-hand side here, there is a tiny, tiny little button in the selected values where you can make them a default. So maybe I want to say my default view on this is going to be last 3 months. One little pro tip for you guys, they use the word previous and the word last. Previous does not include current, whereas last includes current. So just a little bit of a note on the naming convention there. And so now that I've set up the timeline filter options, the last thing I want to do is specify how the timeline filter should apply to each of the individual components. And now in this case, all of these reports are based on invoices. So technically speaking, this step doesn't matter for this individual dashboard. But if you had a dashboard where you had some data from your CRM as well as from analytics, like a common one might be, I want to track my marketing spend from books versus how many leads I'm getting each month from CRM. And I want to have one filter that says, show me last month's expenses and last month's leads. And so if I wanted to do that within each of our individual report components, I can go into the options under the 3 dots and actually define which field the timeline filter should map to. And so in this case, I've said, if I select last 3 months, this chart should filter based on the last 3 months of invoice dates. And so now we kind of have our dashboard primarily formatted here. I can use our different filters. So if I unselected Ben Atta, I would just see the revenue from the Zenatta salesperson. And then if I went to our timeline filter and selected something like previous month, now I would just see the revenue from the Zenatta salesperson for that previous month. And so these filters stack on top of each other, so you can apply multiple at once. Now, the last little thing we'll sneak in here, I think we have a couple minutes just to show this, are creating the widgets. And these are like your little call out indicators. And so in the edit view of a dashboard, I can go ahead and add a widget. I can select from a variety of different options. If I want just a straight call out, if I want a comparison versus a previous month, if I want progress to a particular goal. In this case, maybe I want to show this month's revenue versus last month. So I'll choose this label in the middle. I'll determine what my primary data should be. So I've chosen a sum of our invoice subtotals. I'm going to choose how I want to group it. So I'm going to group it by our invoice month, right? So I'll choose invoice date and then the month identifier. And then I'll tell it what I want to compare. So I want my primary value to be latest, so this month, and my secondary value to be previous, so previous month. Again, we'll go through our filters and we'll exclude everything that has an invoice status of void. And then I'll go into our last little settings here and give this a name. So maybe I want to say invoiced revenue this month. And so now we've got a nice little comparator where we can see the invoiced revenue from this month versus the previous based on our various filters and selections in that report. And again, we advise creating a lot of these different widgets and callouts just to make that top level kind of, walk into a wall, what do you think of first type of information, just right at the top of the page for the viewer. And lastly, if we go into view mode, we'll see things kind of size up to the page. And I believe that should wrap it up for this presentation here. I guess we could jump in if we have any particular questions or anything you guys want to highlight on the Zoho side.
Yeah, for sure. If y'all have any questions, let us know in the questions panel while we have Tyler. His time, he's Pretty busy guy, and it's kind of hard to get a meeting with him. So no, it's not that hard actually. He just never picks up my phone call. But anyways, I'll take control away from you.
You got
I
it.
appreciate you kind of going through that. And yeah, really, whenever you're talking about those widgets, they can be very beneficial. For example, we use one internally, and we have all of the kind of what you're saying, walking into a room, you look at the wall kind of thing, and we immediately know exactly where we are as far as like year-to-date revenue in certain situations. Like kind of the key questions we always ask are always those widgets up at the top. So it's really great to see that. And then we can go to our scroll down on our dashboard and see historical data as well.
Yeah, and
So
they get really important for your quota reporting too, because you might have a table of quotas in analytics, and that's your target for the widget, and then your sum of invoices goes towards your target. So there's a lot of different use cases for those widgets.
Tyler, have you done much with Stripe? Because Ann's got a good question. Ann, good to see you, Ann, about Stripe integration, and what does Zoho Analytics pull from Stripe?
If you were to pull Stripe directly, it's a good question. So I guess there's the follow-up is if you have Stripe running through Zoho Books, then you would not likely need to actually connect Stripe through to analytics, because you'd send a digitally payable invoice, they would pay it, and then you'd have a payment record against that invoice that would come from Books that would say it was cleared by Stripe itself. If you wanted to pull Stripe directly in to Zoho Analytics, I mean, it would give you any of your like line item transaction data, but it would be kind of tricky to reconcile. I don't know if you weren't running Stripe as the payment processor for Books. I don't know that there would be a good like consolidating factor if you were looking to reconcile these payments against these invoices. So it kind of depend on like how customers are getting that Stripe payment option. And if it's from a digital invoice, then you should be able to line things up, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. We have another question. Can you embed the BI data on a website? And I believe this is 100% possible. We've seen
embed a report, right?
I probably should say 99% possible, but yeah, I've seen it before on a few of our partners. They do have analytics reports just on their web page.
You can grab an embed code. It embeds it as an iframe.
Yeah.
And then you can pull in any dashboard or report.
Yeah, in use case, that'd be great if you had investors and you just could have an analytics report where they can just go there and check it out. They don't need to necessarily reach out to you, and you have to put together this big report for them every single month.
And we have one more question. How do you share a dashboard with someone who isn't in Zoho Analytics? Within any of those dashboard or reports page, you have a little share option, and you can create an external URL that you can either assign a password to or just have it be publicly accessible.
Yeah. And let's just take this last question real quick about Zia and analytics for narrative reporting. And this is something that we've had it for a year or so, right? Where the new Zia Analytics AI, where basically you can just go in there and just type in, hey, show me revenue per month for this tag, for example, and it just automatically pops up. Any thoughts on that, Tyler, how that's been working for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll use Zia occasionally. It's good. What we found in analytics is it's good for like quick reports. You can kind of use the Zia interface to say like revenue this month, revenue last month. It can do some contextual reporting if you embed it on the charts. You know, like an example would be like when I highlighted for you that product B became a larger set of your product mix month over month. Like if you were to activate Zia Insights for that report, it might surface something like that for you. It's kind of looking at like makeup, but it's very dependent on like how you have your chart formatted, because it's going to look based on those different groupings and identifiers.
Yeah. Clean data as well. But yeah, so thanks, Tyler. And he'll kind of be around for the next 15 minutes or so as we go through the panel discussion. But yeah, so I wanted to just say here's Zenatta's contact information and all their social links as well. I did want to launch the fourth polling question. If you need Zenatta, any help with Zenatta, you can shoot them an email or they can reach out to you, and they'll be happy to help you out and kind of point you in the right direction for sure. And Tyler, I believe I don't know how many clients you work on every year, but I would imagine you're not just working on one or two. You're a busy guy, and I know he's been in a lot of situations. So don't think your situation might be unique to you, but I'm sure Tyler and the Zenatta team has dealt with something similar. So
We've
definitely
seen a
reach out.
lot. We have definitely seen a lot.
Definitely in the Zoho world, and that's
Mhm.
really what they focus on. So whenever you're new to Zoho, definitely reach out to an expert. And we'll kind of get into that a little later, and the importance of kind of reaching out to some expert, definitely in the start of your integration with Zoho. But yeah, so I appreciate Tyler you going through that session. I mean, it's very helpful and gives some good insights on what analytics can do for a business. So let's go ahead and continue on to the panel and get Susan Clark back on. She's yeah, there she is. Yeah, great. Awesome. It's great to have you all here. And right now, as far in the agenda, we're going to spend about 15 minutes talking about beyond bookkeeping, and then we'll have a 10-minute break afterwards. And what we mean by beyond bookkeeping, I'll have Val kind of say his opinion here in a little bit. But yeah, so beyond bookkeeping, what does it mean? What do we mean by beyond bookkeeping, Val? What are your thoughts?
I think what we were talking about today is probably one of the best examples of looking beyond a typical GL, journal entries, and standard financial statements. I can't think of a better example than analytics. And yet a lot of consultants and even business owners will get focused in on traditional markers and reports and other tools and miss trends, miss opportunities. You know, one of the real learnings that we had in our organization, even though I had myself and two other CPAs that were partners of this group, we thought for sure we knew who our top customers were. And, you know, we were at a partners meeting one time, and this young partner came in and said, okay, name off your top state society customers. And we deal with these big states, and we were like, okay, this one, this one, this one. And he goes, okay, now I've gone through and done a bunch of pivot tables, which was one of the first ways we had years ago in spreadsheets to kind of look beyond the general ledger. And we could see clearly that what we thought was like, it's kind of like the example of the ways that we build on that salesperson, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our bigger states we thought were bigger revenue. Well, they were bigger gross revenue, but we lost a lot of money in the middle with their either pricing deals or cost to work with them, whatever. And a couple of other states were real contributors that we weren't paying as much attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So if you stayed with standard financials, you're going to miss something like that. That's what's going beyond the general ledger really means to me. And with the Zoho suite of software, there are so many ways to get outside of that GL. You can even get into your marketing campaigns. You know, we haven't done much with campaigns, but there is a marketing tool, email marketing tool in Zoho Suite that's absolutely terrific. And you can use that to kind of drive a lot of the things you're doing for your marketing campaigns. That's not general ledger. That's not journal entry, debits and credits. So that's what we're talking about, essentially, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, Val. And I 100% agree. Whenever we're looking at tools like analytics, our CRM tool, there's a lot of different avenues business can use, definitely with Zoho, that can help them grow. And we love to kind of see those business case studies where, for example, Marie and Dree yesterday had business case where they weren't automating their inventory. And then all of a sudden they started using Zoho inventory, and she found ways to automate it. And it really pushed them past just looking at their P&L. Really, they were looking at their cash from their balance sheet, and they were just making sure they had cash in the bank account.
Right.
And once you start automating and go beyond the accounting tools, that's whenever you can really start growing your business.
You know, another one hiding in our finance suite that I think a lot of businesses are missing is better management of the whole expense and reimbursement process that is done with Zoho Expense. And I'm a huge fan of Zoho Expense.
Big fan. Big
clean up the whole process. You know, we went through in my prior organization, we went through a terrible deal where we had like 8 instructors and 3 partners traveling. And, you know, you got 11 people submitting expense reports. Of those 11 people, all 11 were Excel instructors. So you end up with like 22 versions of Excel reports. It was bad.
Yeah. And also, you know, obviously you're having to track all that stuff manually, and nothing's really automated. But yeah, kind of to our next question along the same lines is I want to expand beyond the accounting software and kind of where do you start? I wanted to ask Susan Clark this because she actually is an accountant or was her previous trade. And I know she's still doing a little bit of accounting over there at Cornerstone Solutions. So what are your thoughts on that, Susan?
Well, I'm actually not an accountant though, Nathan. I am actually CRM to the core, CRM meaning
yeah.
customer relationship management. But
Uh-huh.
however, I know a lot about books. And so I think that how to go beyond it,
Uh-huh.
because I am so CRM focused, I think everything starts with CRM because CRM feeds into everything else. It
Yeah.
feeds into the books, it feeds into the desk, it feeds into the projects, it feeds into expense, whatever.
Yeah.
It just feeds to everything. And once you've got one, I mean, I guess that's the other thing is that if you're going into this because of the Zoho One ecosystem where you have all of these products, not everything integrates with everything, but most everything integrates. And some things are not relevant to integrate. But I think where you start is CRM. I mean,
Yeah. You have any thoughts on that, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just so much. I mean, to kind of expand on what Susan said there a little bit. So I'll give you an example. Oftentimes in organizations, you go through an approval process before you're sending out a proposal to somebody. And I'm going to tie this into finance. So, so internally, a person has put together a deal. They've got all the numbers have been approved. They go through that process and the proposal goes out. And let's say that proposal goes out with Zoho Sign, because you've got that full integration there. So once that proposal gets signed, kind of going on the automation like you were talking about, well, you can eliminate so many manual steps at that point in time. So the proposal gets signed. You then go ahead and move that deal to awaiting payment. You automatically create the invoice. You avoid that, hey, we got this deal, bookkeeping, generate an invoice for this amount, get the invoice and we'll send it out. You can automatically generate that invoice, automatically send out that invoice. And then when the invoice is paid, you can then in the CRM automatically move that to that the account's active and the invoice has been paid, and then notify people internally that this is paid and you're free to go. And so normally in this case, you'd have all the steps. Hey, great, the contract was signed. Finance, do this, go ahead and get the onboarding team ready, do all of those kind of things. Have we got a payment yet? Have we got a payment yet? Have we got a payment yet? You got the payment because you can notify people across these various integrated applications. Another application Zoho has, which really makes this easy, is an application called Click. And anyone who's used Slack, it's basically just like Slack. And you can even tie finance into Click. So when an invoice is paid, you can notify a particular channel this invoice was paid. So they don't have to go look at that deal to know. So there are just so many different things you can do to tie it all together with these integrations and to really just save time. I think that's key.
Yeah, definitely. And we actually talked about the Click integration Monday during our day one seminar. Yeah, it's just something where talking about where do you start, kind of what Susan Clark was saying is CRM would be a great place to start for sure. And obviously you need your finances in order as well. So, once you start working in Zoho Books, start integrating with Zoho CRM or any other CRM tool, and then you'll start to see ways to automate and improve. And so kind of what Brett was talking about, you won't have to have a sales rep call your AR team member and kind of asking, hey, where's this invoice? Have they paid it? Because they're thinking about their commission and, they want to buy a new Tesla. So they're really focused on that sort of stuff. So whenever you can kind of eliminate a lot of those communication issues and just have it automate, it really helps out a lot. I know that for a fact. And then that's kind of goes to our point on why should I look for not really on that point, but yeah. So why should I look for a partner to help me with a solution, software implementation? And this kind of goes to, I'll let Brett answer this here in a little bit, but I'm a big believer in Richest Man in Babylon. And I don't know if you've read that book, and I would recommend it if you haven't, if you're a business owner. And essentially one of the stories in there is he's talking about why he's the richest man. And it's because whenever he doesn't know how to do something, he essentially outsources. And that's because he could figure it out if he wanted, but time is so valuable. And I think that's been something we've been talking about for the past couple of days is whenever you're a business owner and you're trying to figure this out on your own, it can be overwhelming. And I'm sure Brett has a horror story or something whenever he's doing his consulting about why, someone who hasn't necessarily reached out to a partner in the beginning, they thought they could do it, and then they just weren't necessarily super successful.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't read Richest Man in Babylon, but a book just came out about 3 months ago called Who Not How, which is figuring out who can do it for you, not how you do it
Oh,
yourself.
really?
So I think he might have ripped that off. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes to, we just had a kind of question that just came in where, the gentleman was saying, hey, I'm an accountant and, I just do basic bookkeeping, and this analytics is, it's not really what I want to do. And I think the reason you want to look for a partner on some of these things is because you'll notice that Tyler did the analytics presentation. And we have 18 people in Zenatta, and I think 3 or 4 or 5 of them maybe can do analytics. I'm not one of those. If I was to do an analytics report, it would take me 9-10 hours. Tyler could do it in 15 minutes. And that's that applies just not only internally, but externally to the organization is right. So you really, it's very cost effective to hire someone to do something for you that you really don't want to, and maybe shouldn't take the time to learn, because it's not core to your business. Right. It's what's core to your business is whatever the sales process is, management of that business, driving revenue, and there are certain things that it's just easier to have a partner do. A lot of the magic that Susan and I referred to also in Zoho, yes, there are these integrations, but a lot of that magic is through Zoho has a thing called Deluge, which is a scripting language, which really can tie everything together. So oftentimes people will say, well, I can't get Zoho to do this. Well, because it's not just a drag and drop functionality. Someone actually needs to write a script that says, hey, go to this application, get this data. Go to this application, get this data. Write it here, and then do this with it, and then do that with it. And sometimes it's a very simple matter. Maybe it only takes an hour to write that script that does all these things that you've been manually doing. But those are just a few instances. It's always, I think for most people, extremely cost effective to hire someone who's an expert in any field.
Yeah.
It's kind of like why I don't do my own taxes.
Yeah,
I hire an expert to do that.
yeah, that's funny.
Right. And, anybody in our Zoho world or even customers here, if you're having trouble partnering or getting help or finding other people that have specialties in these other areas, contact our team. We love to partner people up to help each other, because like Brett says, you might have somebody that's great at analytics. You might have somebody that's really great at Zoho Books. I saw that comment, and, we do have traditional accounting. We're just not showing it today. The Zoho Book stuff was on day one, but Zoho Books just by itself is not a bad place to actually do a lot of consulting for clients and help them with their accounting.
Yeah, for sure. And then I'll launch a poll question before our last little panel discussion. And then, so are you exploring beyond bookkeeping? And so really that's what this whole session today is, just how do we go beyond bookkeeping with analytics or other tools? And Susan will kind of go through those other tools and show light on it. And, it kind of hurts my feelings that you think CRM is the #1 way, because me being an accountant, I think I mean, you're the one who's the consultant for Zoho, so you would know what it's like whenever you're integrating that. But from what
I think what Susan's saying there is that the way it was built, it's kind of the glue that ties everything together in a lot of
Yeah,
places,
for sure.
right?
Yeah.
And it's just, yes, and you have the accounting department, but in most companies that's kind of small. And you really, people don't want to have to, hey, has this been done? Has this been done? Would you do this? And in the CRM, I can look at a customer account and I can see all their financial history if I have those permissions. I can see what they've paid and what they've done. So, yes, it does tie together.
Yeah,
But
no,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, I could see it in a way of like organization for sure. Like, definitely whenever I start, for example, whenever I start a new job or something like that, it's always good to get your folders ready to go, so that whenever you start rolling in and getting all these requests, you can have an organized way of looking at everything. And if you have everything organized with CRM, I think it'd be a lot easier down the road for you, because and definitely a lot of times with these small businesses, we are looking for people. It's your job to grow as a business owner. And that's why I think it's important to not get bogged down on this stuff in the beginning, and we'll really focus on it in the beginning and not necessarily get bogged down with it later whenever you're really unorganized, you don't know where to start. whenever you're at the point where you don't know where to start, that's not necessarily the best place to be, because then you have to really reach out to a consultant and to have them do a lot of account cleanup. But yeah, so I appreciate that, guys and gals. So let's kind of do this last question. This question will be for Val, because he's our resident CPA, been in the accounting.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Pick on Val.
Been in the accounting industry
For a while, yeah.
For a while. We won't put a number on it, but yeah. So should accounts explore these solutions? And this is before he gets going, and I'm sure he has a lot to say about this, is whenever we're going to our events and our conferences, this is a real big discussion as far as like digital transformation for accountants, and how do they get into this field of consultants, and how are they able to be successful with it? So Val, what are your thoughts?
Well, it kind of comes back a little bit what Brett was talking about too. Where does the business transaction begin? Does it begin with a CRM? There's a lot of arguments for that. To most accountants, they would say no. It really kind of begins with the bank statement and reconciliation of a bank statement, and that's kind of what brings it to play. It's a little bit of the chicken and the egg concept. But I would tell you, quite frankly, I grew up in the accounting industry heavily, as Nathan's mentioned. My first summer, I was working for Deloitte, actually, and I was big with technology, and I could actually help a lot of our clients with systems because I had that knowledge. I already owned a computer for 3 or 4 years during college, was out fixing systems. And one of the first things I noticed was these people absolutely need help beyond their traditional financial statements. It's as somebody put a comment up here about being value-added services. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
So for an accountant, should an accountant look at this and really get into this area? Without question, because that's when our firm started to really grow and expand. And we learned right away that partnering was a great way to go. We can't be experts in everything. And we used to hit certain, like Great Plains solutions back when we were just big on Sima and like Peachtree. And we would partner in with certain people. We ended up hiring that guy, which was great in the long run. But it gives you an idea. If you're just stuck looking at the general ledger, if you're stuck looking just at, financial solutions, a couple of things you're going to run into. There's companies out there that are hiring a lot of staff to just do financial transactions. You're going to compete with banks. You're going to compete with, outsourcing from different other companies and all around. That's not where your value to the clients are. Your value to the clients is the knowledge of their business and the ability for you to look using their tools that they've got, these finance tools, look outside of what they've traditionally looked at to try to get it. The number one thing is to get a glimpse of the future. Okay. For example, a cash flow. I don't know one business in the world that would not turn down a cash flow forecast. A well-done cash flow forecast means everything to almost every business. Yet back in the day, very few accounting firms. When I was at Deloitte, that was not a focus. There were traditional AICPA standard cash flow reports, but it was not like we really got into cash flow forecasting and whatever. I started doing a lot more of that with my small firm. And that was a huge value-added service that we made a lot of money doing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things you can consider with this world we're talking about today.
Yeah, and kind of on Val's point is whenever you're looking for an accountant or a partner, you really want to look for someone who can be really a business advisor. So at the end of the day, you go to Zenatta, you go to Susan Clark, they're going to be able to point you in the right direction and really help you grow as a business. And that's really your main goal, right? Is to grow. You don't necessarily want to be stagnant. You wouldn't be here on this webinar today if you just wanted to be stagnant, because you could just be doing things the way you've always been doing them. So that's kind of what we mean by beyond bookkeeping. And obviously, if you're an accountant, we would love to have a conversation with you about how that would work. And later in the presentation, we will kind of go over our partner program. But yeah, so let's go ahead and does anybody else have anything to add before we take a 10-minute break? No? Y'all are good? So awesome. So Brett and Tyler, y'all can feel free to stay on, or y'all can head out for the day. But yeah, it was awesome having y'all, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. What's your next section about there, Nathan?
It will be Susan Clark going over 7 keys to integrating to Zoho Books. And then she'll be covering other Zoho platforms as well. Probably over CRM would be my guess.
Well, yeah. I mean, I really think what I'd like to do, I mean, we'll go over some of the 7 keys, but I'm a live demo person.
Yeah. She'll be doing a live demo over that. Yeah.
Of what it all looks like and why we switched to Zoho Books.
Yeah. So feel free to stay on, Brett and Tyler, but it was awesome having y'all. And we'll be back here in about 10 minutes. And I'll launch the first poll question whenever we get back.
Thanks
So
for
in 10
having us.
minutes, I'll launch it. Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Tyler. Y'all take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey everyone. We're not necessarily going to start right now. Give it another 2 minutes or so to kind of get Val and Susan Clark back in. And hope you're enjoying the session so far. All right, everyone. Let's see if we can get Val and Susan. See if they're back. How's it going?
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, these 10-minute breaks, I always feel like they're too long whenever I start them. And then whenever you're like, doing laundry, I'm out there doing laundry, doing the dishes, 10 minutes goes by quick. I wasn't doing that, but I could have been. Normally, I try to eat something real quick. Like yesterday, my wife got me Chick-fil-A, and I ate a whole wrap and kale.
During the break? Wow.
Yeah, 10 minutes. I mean, it's probably not good. I think if you eat them quick, it's not good for like.
Oh, there we go. Nice. Ooh, cashew
Kind of
clusters.
snacks, whatever.
Keep you
clusters.
moving down the road here.
Yeah, keep that energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had whenever I drink coffee, I'm never hungry, so I'm sure during this session I'm going to break down at one point. But yeah, so let's see. I'll just launch a poll question. It's not going to be an official poll, but if I can get at least half of the people, about 50 people, to answer yes, then we'll just get started.
Essentially, you're just checking to see if they're back from break, right?
Yep.
You see how many are back? Okay.
I have to do two again.
It's okay. Give them some minutes. We're
Like-
not all crazy here. So,
See, I gotta get to that.
folks, at the end of the session, too, Nathan will put out links to our team. You will receive links to the recordings from this week, as well as handout materials and slides and information. That all comes out once we're done later this week. And that'll allow you, too, to reach out to our team. Let's say you're looking for help with Zoho Books or something, or you're looking for help with CRM. We happen to know somebody. If you're looking for help, with analytics. Anyway, you get the idea. But we're happy to help you. I mean, that's part of the reason we host these, to bring people in and talk about all this stuff, but at the same time to also look and see if there's places where we can help both partners and end users at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And so we only have, if we can get a few more people to answer yes, if you're rolling back in, we'll go ahead and get started. Right now we're sitting about 40 people. Yeah, it looks like people are back. I just don't want them to miss your session, because that's definitely one to be here for. If you're just only using Zoho Books or you're only using one application, it's good to see the full suite in action, I guess you could say. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And I'll launch the first poll question back here in a little bit after we do an introduction for you, Susan. So I keep that in mind. But yeah, so I'm going to transfer control over to Susan real quick. And this is Susan Clark. She's over at Cornerstone Solutions in Houston, my hometown. And yeah, she actually has been doing a lot of work recently. She's coming out with a new book. If you could see in the bottom right-hand corner, is that a new picture? I guess that has to be a new picture, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the Zoho One book, and
It's
that's
a Zoho
it.
One book. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it in her arm. So this is
Ooh.
this is a great resource. And is it out yet, or are you about
No,
to?
I think it will ship by the end of the month, though.
Yeah, end of the month. And if you're interested in Zoho One and kind of what that looks like for your business, I would definitely recommend picking her book up. And the link to her website is in the handouts area, and we can put it in the chat section as well. And it's just a great resource to have kind of on your desk whenever you're exploring Zoho apps. And
Mine on.
yeah, how many pages is that?
Well, the CRM book was 400 something pages. I forget.
Wow.
Yeah, 400 pages about.
Oh, goodness gracious.
And but the CRM, I mean the Zoho One, of course, is covering almost all of the 40 products.
Yeah.
And so we had to cut each product down quite a bit. But hopefully, I mean, we covered everything from an admin perspective as well as an end user perspective. So
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lot. And I know I used to buy those, whatever for dummy books and all that stuff. And those helped me out for whatever I was doing at
Yeah.
the time. And I'm not saying this will be as, those are pretty light as far as the guidance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Susan Clark, I'll let her introduce her firm and how long she's been with Zoho. I know she's been here before I was, and I believe it's, you started, what year was it again?
I don't know. I've been here since 2000. I don't know. I've been here for 10 years, however long that is.
Yeah, she's been very
2012.
active in the partner world for Zoho, and she's been a big part of Zoho's success, I feel. And it's been great to have her definitely on our team. Once I met her for the first time and she came on our first webinar, I was just kind of like, she's an expert and we got to get her on as many as possible. And so she's Zoho One certified. She's an author of the Zoho One Quick Study Guide and CRM Quick Study Guide. And she also included some books handouts that are in the handouts tab over there. So I don't even think did I transfer control?
I don't think so. No.
Oh, yeah, you're training now. So go ahead and move the slide forward real quick.
Yeah, let's make sure it's working.
Yeah. So yeah, you're doing it. And I'll launch the first poll question since we're back.
Okay.
And we'll get started. So how confident are you with integrating books to other Zoho solutions? Cool. Yeah, so a lot of people don't necessarily do it that often and not very confident. Don't worry if you're not confident. Hopefully Susan can kind of clear some things up for you. And
one of the chapters in the book is how to integrate stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Because almost everything integrates with everything else. So
yeah, it's
awesome.
I know whenever I was doing a demo account integrating, me being an internal Zoho employee, it wasn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world I've ever done. So it's always good to get some sort of guidance. But it is, Susan will go through it basically and kind of tell you do's and don'ts here in a second. But let's go ahead and get started. Looks like everyone answered the polls. And a reminder, you need to answer 9 out of the 12. Right now we're on question 6. You can go back and answer polls if you miss any in the polls tab. And yeah, Susan, take it away.
Well, thanks. So yeah, I've been using Zoho for about 10 years. We've been using Zoho only for about 7 years. About 7 years ago, we pretty much gave up consulting on any other software, and we're pretty much a exclusive Zoho shop. That's all we work. But it was easy because there's like as you already know, there's great team members. There's like Val and Nathan are really great. The project managers are really great in helping and taking ideas. And then, of course, the Zenatta team is gone, but they're actually a really, really good group of people to work with as well.
Yeah. I will add to a lot of things I hear from customers and I guess partners is they really enjoy our support compared to a lot of the other products out there. And I'm not in sales, so I'm not trying to pitch Zoho if you're not using Zoho currently. But I mean,
I will.
I'm biased towards Zoho, but our customer service is great. And there's a chat in pretty much every application where you can just quickly communicate and kind of get your point across, and they'll help you out. But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I like the chat the best, actually, as opposed to calling, because
Yeah,
it's
for
easier
sure.
just to write out what you want and
Mhm.
have a question about.
Yeah, bullet point it for sure.
Bullet point.
Yeah.
So I said earlier that I think that everything starts with CRM, and I do still think that it starts with CRM. But the fact that you can make CRM and books talk to each other is awesome. It's probably one of the bigger reasons why we just eventually moved everything. And I'll want to show you what that looks like shortly if you've never seen it. Um, but I want to start with the 7 keys to integrate. Why do you need to integrate books, or how you would do that? And some of these are just real obvious, but let's just go with it. Change is hard. That's the first thing. I know that probably, I don't know what percent of you are QuickBooks advisors or advisors in some other software. And no matter what, I mean, even if people like say people are Salesforce users or um, other kinds of software, no matter what, I could tell you that Zoho is like CRM is the easiest product out there. And it may or may not be. I think it's pretty good, but it doesn't make any difference. Whatever you're coming from, change is hard. So I'm not a fan of change for the sake of change, but at some point, there is great advantages to changing. We know that through history. I mean, how many people here are still using Windows 95? Probably not very many of us. At some point, you change because there's some great advantage to changing. And so if you recognize that change is hard, it's not that bad. So we talked about it very briefly. It's important to get help. This would be the second thing. It's not like any of this is rocket science. You can figure this out. There are like a lot of YouTube videos. There's online support, and you can actually get Zoho to help you with some things. But um, if you would just even just a few hours of consulting support could be a huge difference for you. The Someone to kind of translate for you. This is what it says. Let's say I'm just going to use QuickBooks as an example. This is the command in QuickBooks, and this is the command in Zoho Books. The the features are there. The feature sets are pretty much exact. It's just a matter of translating. It's like when you get on an elevator, do you press G for ground, 1 for first floor, or L for lobby? I mean, it doesn't make any difference. Once you kind of get the idea of what the word means, then all elevators kind of work the same. So get help. Don't. I find that also sometimes I have customers that maybe are what is it? Um, penny wise and pound foolish, whatever. Um, it if you They'd rather try and spend hours and hours figuring something out so they don't have to pay anybody. Yet, if they had paid somebody to do something, and they had taken that time and spent it in trying to get more sales or trying to do other things, their company would be so much farther ahead. So I'm a big fan of getting help. But this is the other thing. I'm a big fan of keeping it simple, because while software comes easy to me, it does not come easy to many people. So whenever you're working with your clients, you're going to want to keep it as simple as possible and not overwhelm them. Now, to a certain extent, I may overwhelm you today because I'd like to show you all of the things it can do, but very few people ever use all of the things. You have to pick and choose what works for you or what works for your customers. Um, but if you keep it simple, the biggest reason for successful implementations is end user engagement. It can be awesome. It can do beautiful charts and graphs and analytics and reports, and can do all those wonderful things. But um, if the end users are not using it, then it doesn't make any difference. No data, no charts. So you want to keep it really simple so that it's easy for the team to use. And kind of in line with keeping it simple, you want to focus on what can make their lives easier. What are things that the team is spending a lot of time doing and could be done a lot easier? Um, Things that can be automated, uh, things that you can get rid of. You don't need to know that piece of information. It's that kind of thing. So, in that vein, you want to set up workflow automations. Very similar to what Brett said earlier. We've done the similar things. You Once you set it up, like, well, we use sign as well. When we send out a proposal, once it's signed, it comes in, and then it can automatically notify that it's been signed, and it goes to books, and everything is kind of automated. So all of that stuff that had to go before, I don't have to notify anybody in accounting that I need to set up this account in books because it's already there. So all these workflows are just really awesome that you can set up. And of course, there are these built-in features. You know, you want to make sure that you're implementing all the built-in features, kind of look through all of the options. And you know, there's the automatic reminders for payment. There's a ton of things that are built in that you can turn on or turn off. You're in control. You can determine which things you want to pull in. And of course, you know, take advantage of all of the native integrations. Um, if you're using non-Zoho products, I think a lot of people will say, well, I'll just go use Zapier and we'll tie all this stuff in together. And that's the great thing about the Zoho suite of products, is that it's all the integrations are built in. It's not really that hard. You'll see the gear somewhere on the page, which is a setup. You click on that and you look for the word integration, and then you just click on the things that you want to integrate. They're already built in. You don't have to pay an extra fee, monthly fee, for any kind of third-party service to integrate for you. So it's a really you know, great option because everything does work so well together. So that's kind of my general overall thoughts of if you kind of keep those things in mind, you can take a great suite of products and use it with your clients to help them move forward.
Yeah, yeah, and kind of to add to that, Susan, and I believe we've been talking about it. I kind of talk about it a lot, so I'm sure I've said it yesterday or another webinar or something. But a great thing about really Zoho and its suite of applications is a lot of our tools are enterprise ready. So you're getting the same tools that a lot of these enterprise businesses are using, and you're able to use it for a small, medium-sized business and really help your business grow beyond. I hate that tagline. I don't hate that tagline. I like it,
Yeah,
but
no, I get it.
beyond that bookkeeping kind of service, or also if you're a small business, you can go beyond those tools and really help your business just grow in other ways. And obviously, Susan has a demo kind of set up, so she can
Well,
go
and
a little deeper in.
it's at an unbelievably low price,
Yes, yes, definitely.
considering what it all costs if you were to buy all these products separately, even within the Zoho ecosphere or even outside. It's just so inexpensive
Hmm.
for clients to do this. It really should be a no-brainer for a lot of people, but most people get stuck on that first bullet, which is change is hard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and I realize that certainly when we moved over from another product to this, um, it was hard because I knew the other product like the back of my hand.
Yeah.
So, but what I could see is what I'm about to show you is there was an advantage, and
Yep.
that's what I'd like for the people on the um, webinar to see, all of the different advantages that are there and why it's worth the change.
Yeah, yeah. And I just launched the seventh poll question real quick.
Okay.
It's related to the key to integration.
Can I
Um,
go ahead and start my screen share while they're doing
yeah,
that?
yeah. Go ahead and transition over your screen share, and then we'll get going. Yeah. So really, what key to integration would help you is what I asked Susan, just in case you don't see that. And everybody wants to keep it simple in the workflow automations, and I think those. I mean, obviously, all those keys are something Susan values. But in a lot of ways, a lot of people just want it to be simple and they want those automations. So, and that's really what,
Yeah,
built.
I was looking at the answers. Let me
Mhm.
pull this over
And
here.
I can show
That
results
it
too.
is it is a real important. It is keeping it simple as everything, really and
Mhm.
truly. But
Mhm.
the workflow, that's where you can take it to the next level.
Next, yeah, I like that.
Truly.
Next level, yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I'll let you get going with that demo and I'll be in the session as well.
Okay. Well, I started off by saying, and I assume everybody can see my screen that says,
Yes, we can. Yep.
okay, good. I am a big fan. I use Zoho. I use it. We use it all the time. My whole team uses it. We don't even have hardly any other software in our shop. So I will demo from our own database. So it's like we drink our own Kool-Aid, if you will. So I'm demoing a live database. Now it is filtered so that you don't see any client data, but I can at least show you a little bit about what it would look like. And so what I wanted, this is what made us switch to Zoho a long time ago. I want to look at Lance Parker. Lance Parker is my fake person that I use to demo most everything. So I'm clicking on Lance, and this is a CRM. If you don't know what a CRM is, I'm assuming most of you do, but I'm just going to go ahead and just review it really quickly. It's a customer relationship management tool. It keeps track of all of my prospects, which you see leads. It keeps track of all my customers, my contacts, the companies they work for, the deals we're trying to close, and as well as activities, tasks and meetings and calls. So it keeps track of all of that. I don't have to put my leads or my prospects in Books. I don't have to, make Books messy from that perspective. But I can keep all kinds of information, and each person can decide what things they want to track. I will track a lot more than most because we've been doing this a really long time, but you've got your basic Rolodex kind of things. Now we keep a lot more. So this is where sometimes I'll turn this off because it overwhelms people, but we keep a lot of fields, but a lot of these fields are filled in. See, like this comes in from a web form. When he fills out a web form, it fills that in. This comes from a web form. So it's like I'm sending out something, and if the person fills it out when he starts the project, then all of this gets put into the system, so that no matter which of my team members works with this client, we always know what's going on. We have the notes. Like I can look at the notes over here, and I can see, Varial has completed the workflow, and Christine has done some billing. I can see over time all of the different things that people have done with this client. So it works really well. But let me go back up to the top. I'm going to click this, because this right here is when you integrate Zoho Books and Zoho CRM, you get this extra little panel that appears on the top of every contact and account record and deal record for that matter. And so you'll see this is just like a really quick integration with Books. And if I click this, I can see it's just fetching the data. It's like a window into Books, and I can see what our total sales have been with this person and how much money they owe us. So they still owe us a lot of money, but they don't have unused credits. Would be like if they were on retainer and they paid ahead of time, how much extra money do they have? Or if they got a credit note, it would show here.
Mr. Lance is like Zenatta from Zen. It's weird that he says that name, but yeah,
I know
Mr. Zen over there from
Mr. Zen.
Tyler's
Well,
Quest.
he is a lot like that, but we overuse him. But I can also, in addition to seeing how much money, I can see if you have a client that is shipping things, there's an inventory to be concerned. I mean, this would be like sales, normal service sales or just widget sales. But if you're keeping inventory and you're shipping stuff, I can click this and I can see he has 12 items that are out there waiting to be packed. 6 have already been shipped, and 19 have been invoiced. So you kind of get the idea, and see one thing is not even packed yet. I can see because 6 and 12 is 18, it's not 19. So there's one thing out there, that an order that came in that hasn't even gotten to the shipping department yet. So I know that at any given time, and I can see what shipments are in progress, some things like that. So it's just really awesome for the sales team to be able to look at this information and without having access to your Zoho Books or QuickBooks or whatever. They can't see your balance in your bank. There's a lot of things they can't do. You can control through permissions what they can do from within the CRM. So I'm just going to go over here to the left, and there's a Zoho Finance section over here. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going down. It takes a second to populate because it's going over to Zoho Books, and it's pulling over this information from the Zoho Books. It's like instantaneous, basically. And I can see what estimates have been accepted, one he declined. I can see what sales orders are in process. He's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, sales orders. Some of them are open, some of them are invoiced. So if I were to go to Books, I'm just going to go over here to Books for a second to show you what it looks like. So here is Lance here. And if I look at him and I go to, this is invoices. Let me go to sales orders for his record. right here. So all those same sales orders are right here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exact same sales orders are here. So if something gets added here, it immediately displays over back in CRM. Same thing with invoices. I can see we have an invoice in draft mode. It hasn't been shipped yet. We've got a couple of overdue invoices. Here's my voided ones, because he wasn't a real customer at any rate. But let's say this one, this 2228, if I go back to, let's say as an accountant, as I go back to that, let me go back to the invoice and find the 2228, which is right here. So let's say the accountant receives a check in the mail. So let me go back for a second. Notice, let me go to the top. Go to the top. There we go. Right now, it shows that his receivable is $1367. Okay, so the accountant has just received a payment for this invoice of $1,200. So I'm just going to record a payment, and I'm going to call this demo, so I know I can delete it later, so it's not going to mess up my accounting. So I'm going to say record payment. Okay, right away, I'm just going to click on his name right here, and it goes to his record inside of Zoho, and I can see, let's go to the overview. He no longer owes $1,300. He only owes $167.43. So as the salesperson, let me come out of this and come back in just so I can refresh the screen. There we go. As the salesperson, as he's looking at these records, he will look at, there we go. And it's going to pull the most recent data. Come on. There we go. So you can see immediately that the sales rep is going to be able to know, well, our total sales for this client has been this, but they only have an outstanding receivable of this. So let's say I talk to Lance and I want to, he says, well, I don't know. I thought I've paid everything. I'm going to go down here as a sales rep again to Zoho Finance and find that 167.43. Let's say it was this one or that one. Well, let's say it was this one. And he's got 2 that are overdue. So I'm going to tell him, hey, you've got 2 that are overdue. He goes, oh, fine. Would you send that to me? As a, again, as a rep or somebody from within the CRM, again, totally without going into Books, they can click on that and send the email and immediately send a copy of that invoice to the client. So to me, that was a huge draw. To be able to have that kind of integration between the finance group and between the CRM or the sales team was a huge benefit for a lot of our clients. Now, sometimes it is hard because sometimes people will say, well, yeah, but my bookkeeper only knows QuickBooks. Yes, that is true. But on the other hand, that part of your business takes up such a small part. And the advantage to the business of having this 365 view, this huge view of everything that's going on, well outweighs that. And again, it's kind of, you can take that cheat sheet that I gave you, or that was in the handouts, and there's one that's just Zoho Books, and you can give it to the accountant and say, here, this is what you need to know to do this. Or I can find somebody else. But anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah, definitely. If you have an accountant already out there, you're outsourcing, and there's just some friction them transferring over accounting
Sure.
tools. I will tell you, whenever I used to do accounting advisory work, we used to just do whatever the customer would tell us to do. And as a business advisor, obviously, if you're able to integrate a lot more than just an accounting software, you can kind of take that business advice route. And if you don't want, for example, if they don't want you to go to Zoho Books, just go, ask why. And if it's only because they're comfortable with QuickBooks, just say, like, there's someone out there I can work with. I mean, obviously Susan Clark, and we have more in Houston and in Texas, and then, throughout the nation. So accountants are pretty flexible for the most part. And if they're not, I'm not saying if you have a good relationship with them, you don't have to obviously abandon that relationship, but they should be flexible for the most part if you see value in kind of what Susan's showing you.
And I forgot to show you one more thing, is that notice that, again, as the end user in the CRM world, I can create an estimate or sales order or an invoice straight from the CRM, which is awesome, because that way now you can set it so that your team can create the invoice, and it will go into Books immediately, but they can't send it. Somebody has to look at it and approve it before it's sent, or you can give them the rights to send as well. Again, just kind of depending on what works for you. But I'm not sure exactly if you've seen this or not, but of course, all of these things, if I were to create an invoice now, it would immediately be here available in Zoho Books. Or if I create a sales order, it would be immediately available here inside of inventory. If you have a clientele that needs to sell widgets or pieces or parts, it's easy to do. So for instance, one of the things that integrates with Zoho Books is Zoho Commerce. I sell our book on Zoho Commerce. So anytime I have a sale on Zoho Commerce, it immediately goes straight into Zoho Books and Zoho Inventory. I'm sorry, Zoho Inventory, so that I have a team that comes in here and they can look, has this been packed yet? Has this been shipped yet? I can see this has been partially packed and partially shipped. So I can see all the time where we are in our shipping and what needs to be done next, or has it, once it's all been shipped, has it been invoiced? This one was invoiced. They already paid for it, so they're definitely expecting it to be shipped. But it's just super easy to go back and forth. And I assume that you know this, that whatever's in Books is also in inventory and is also in subscriptions. Whatever you have. So this, for instance, I can see here he's got some outstanding receivables. He has a subscription. If I go back to Lance, notice that there's a Zoho subscriptions integration. So I can see the status of his subscriptions. There is a Zoho expense. Val and Nathan were talking about the advantage of Zoho expense, which is awesome. You can look at the Zoho expense. I could create an expense from here. I can look at expenses that have already been submitted if I want to, and see what kinds of things have been there. I don't think I've got any that are submitted for him, but you can look at expense reports as well. No, I don't have anything for him. But again, they all just kind of integrate with each other, and it works out really well. But CRM is not the only thing that integrates with Books. Even though I love it, there are other things you need to know as well. And one of those is, Desk. Desk is, if you have a company that has a support team, which is really nice, if you people that are dedicated to it. So I have a ticket here. Notice that I created a ticket for Lance this morning, and it came in, and it shows here. So he just says he wants an additional book. So your support team, or your customer support team, they can go in and answer this ticket. They can talk back and forth and everything, but notice it over here at the left, because I have integrated Desk and Books, that I can click here, and that would give me the ability to look at any previous invoices that were related to tickets. But let me go back. I just clicked Yellow Jersey Bikes, and I want to click Lance. There we go. You can click the person, or you can click the company, and I want to work with Lance because he's the one that submitted the ticket. There we go. So I can go to Books, and I can see his previous invoices. I mean, it'll automatically display. So as a tech support person, I can see if this person has overdue invoices. Notice that one got paid today. So the people in Desk will also see who's up to date and who's not up to date with their expenses. So, but now he wants a book, and I can handle that for him as an agent if I wanted to. I can just click on, let's say, Books, and I can say, I can either create an invoice, or I can create an estimate. So I'm going to create an invoice. There we go. And one of the things that Desk has is the ability to bill for hours. And right now, I don't want to bill for hours. I don't want to bill for tickets or anything. I just want to bill for a widget that I sold him, or I have to send out a part and I need to notify. Maybe I won't charge him for the part, but I want to invoice it as a zero balance invoice. So I'm going to say I want to invoice with no time entries. I'm going to click next. And then it's going to bring up, there we go. This is exactly what the invoice would look like if you generated it from Zoho Books, but now I'm generating it from a desk support ticket. I'm not going to go ahead, but basically right now I have a window into Books. So I can, if I want to, click in here and go ahead and look, add, some kind of, these are the items that are in all of the finance suite. So I could pull stuff up. I'm not going to go ahead and create this, but once I create it, of course, not only will it show in Desk, but it'll also show in Books, and it'll also show in CRM immediately because they all talk to each other. There's like a window into each option. So I think that's a really great thing. If you've got support teams that are sending out parts or sending out replacements or sending out fulfilling orders in any way. So I'm going to take this back. One of the others, and again, it's actually, somebody said they were unsure about how to integrate things. It's actually pretty easy. You always see this little setup widget gear at the upper right, and you can click it and always just look for, if you don't see integration, you'll see the word marketplace, but I actually just look for the word Zoho and somewhere in that setup screen, and I'll click on it. There we go. And here's all the things you could integrate with. So I'm just going to go down to, you can see Books. It's just right here. I would click on it. Now mine's already integrated, but you just pick the name of your organization and that's it. It's really very straightforward. Now you can actually change permissions so that you can say your light agents or your newbie agents don't get to do invoices. So I'm just going to take that off for them. So they don't get to do estimates because they just don't know enough to do that. So you can control what each of your team members can do very easily. So let's see, let me go back. One of the other ones that is actually a very good one to connect with is Zoho Projects. Zoho Projects, if you want to integrate it, which if your team is using, if you have a company that's using Zoho Projects, you can also, again, this is another place where you can keep track of time. We can keep track of time in Desk if your support team is tracking for their support time, but you can keep track in Projects if you're testing for different projects to see what's going on. So if I just say, let's take this one. This is a project and doesn't make any difference, what it says, but the idea is that I have the ability to bill for anything if I want to within here. If you've got a particular project or particular part of it that you want to bill for, you can bill, you can log hours here if you want to, so that it's billable or not billable, but it's very easy then if you want to, I'm going to come back out of here, to say, I want to bill for this part, or we have to bill for these items. So it's actually pretty straightforward to do it here. And again, this particular Zoho project app has a slightly different setup tool. Instead of the gear, it has the tools, like the screwdriver and the wrench that are crossing each other. It's the same thing. It's going to pull you over to here where you can look at Marketplace. And again, look for the word Zoho, and you'll find the Zoho products that you can integrate with, which are actually very nice. I mean, there are other things that there's People has an integration with Books. Again, that's mostly for timesheets. We don't use that one, but that's easily available. But notice that, by the way, one of the things that Nathan said you were talking about click on earlier in the week. Notice that here I can see a click bar at the bottom in Desk. So I can see, I'll pop up in a second. I can see the click bar, but like in subscriptions, I was going to show you. In inventory, I can see it. In subscriptions, I can't. So I went on and disabled it so I could show you how easy it is. Again, if I just click on the gear and I go to integrate, here it says integrations instead of marketplace, it's going to do one or the other. And I'm going to click on Zoho apps and go find click and say complete setup. So you just have to select which channel. I'm actually part of a lot of channels, but this is my company. So I'm just going to do with that channel so that we can all talk with each other and say configure. And that's how easy it was. There's nothing more than that. So now when I go back to the home screen shortly, I'll have that bar that'll come up at the bottom of the screen, so that no matter which app I'm in, notice I keep tabs for every app that I have open. No matter which app I'm in, I'll be able to see the click conversations at the bottom of the screen. I'm gonna have to wait a little bit longer for it to pop up.
Yeah. Yeah, we that's something that's pretty recent, right? In the past 6 months or so, they included that with Zoho One.
Click.
Yeah, well, so I noticed whenever they did some sort of update, and obviously I'm, internally, and we just started getting those notifications at the bottom of click. Maybe they just activated it for us.
It could be they just activate it for you,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's usually there and they're always the same. If I go back to books or if I go back to CRM, it makes no difference. If I click it, I can see, that I've got 3 conversations among ourselves. And then, to be honest, I saw a conversation from Brett because I had clicked him a few minutes ago to ask him something. And so he responded, so I can go back and look at his if I need to later on.
Yeah, it's a great way to just not, like, say you're engaged in your current duty and you don't necessarily want to leave to go to a different channel.
Yeah.
If someone needs you or something, you can just
So
quickly
I go,
chat them.
Nathan.
Yeah.
It's like I just wanted to confirm, when am I supposed to be finished? So
Yeah,
he would
well,
give me.
don't scroll up too high. I don't know. I don't think I see anything.
I know, but you can very quickly without email, like from almost any Zoho app, click a lot of people, and it doesn't have to be only within your organization. Obviously, I'm not part of Zoho's organization, but I can talk to Nathan. Same way, I'm not part of Zenatta's organization, but we can chat with each other as well. So it works out really well. One of the other things that Zoho Books works with is, it's part of Zoho Books, is the portal. Because actually the 2 other products that you can integrate with Books are Zoho Sign and Zoho Sales IQ. But you can only use those products from within the portal. So sometimes I wish there would be an ability to just like send an invoice immediately that could require a signature from, or let's say not an estimate. I could send an estimate. It would require a signature from the customer, and they could sign it as if in Zoho Sign. But unfortunately, you have to log into the portal to do that. So again, using my fake persona here, I'm going to log into Lance. And from the portal, again, see, he no longer owes the 167. I could have directed him back here because he made that payment today. I could have directed him back here, and he could have looked at his invoices and either pay now from here or whatever. And again, if he pays from here, immediately it's available in all of the platforms that integrate with each other. I can also see projects here. One of the other things that's actually kind of nice is, all of that stuff I'm doing in all of the different modules, like projects and desk. If I were to create a new invoice for Lance here, let's do a new invoice. If you have, notice I have 2 unbilled projects. It's always going to tell you from all these other sources, hey, there's stuff out there that should be billed. So I can look at it and I can see which project is it. It's this project. And I can figure out which ones that need to be added to this invoice, or I can ignore it, but it's queuing it up for me to automatically bill for those things that came from within other softwares within CRM, which I think is actually pretty cool. So another thing I wanted to show you, if I haven't overwhelmed you by yet, is that Zoho has a mobile module for everything. They will not release a product that doesn't have a mobile app with it. And of course, I've got the CRM, but I've also got the books that you can click and it just comes up and it's ready. I think this is actually probably a pretty cool one, because I actually remember going into a client's office one time and they said they just said they didn't have the bill that I'd gotten them, or I had said that they owed. So I came into here and went to sales and invoices, and we'll just say it's this one. No, let's say shoot, these are clients. It will go to public
This
invoices.
is live, people.
No, this is live. All right. So here's my ones that you can see. So I can come in here and I can say, oh, you didn't get that. So I can click on the invoice here and email it. And I did that, and I could hear the ding on his email register as soon as I sent it, so that I knew that I could tell for sure that he'd gotten the invoice that he mislaid. In addition, I can see up here on my phone, I've got this little books notification. I can't make it come down. Let me see if I can do it on my phone. Let's see if this will work. It'll show me, okay, here's the books notification. Basically, I had to do it with my fingers. Let me do it, enable presentation mode here. It just tells me that this amount just came into my bank account. So at any given time, the client always knows kind of what's going on with their account. It's actually very nice. Or I could create an invoice on the fly if I wanted to, which is actually pretty awesome. Yes, I want to leave this. But regardless of whether you have a books, like I said, again, you can have the CRM app on your phone. Like I marked myself out for the webinar today, so I make sure that I was ready for you guys. I've got stuff tomorrow. I've got things from Monday. So there's always something that it's very easy for me. I don't have to be in the office. I can do most everything remotely from one of these. And then this is I keep them because I don't want to junk up my desktop. You can do Zoho Expense, you can do Zoho Desk, Zoho Analytics. And, of course, that's one that, integrates. And of course, Tyler and Brett, talked about that, it is a great option. In fact, I don't know that he said it, but somebody asked if you could publish a dashboard or a chart on a web page, which is true, you can. But the other thing that you can do is you can embed it inside of a Zoho CRM, so that you can have a dashboard. So I don't have to go over to analytics.
Yeah.
I'll just click on that and it'll see.
Yeah, we have that. That's in books as well. You can kind of go to those reports and pull up nice little analytics dashboards without having to go in analytics and pull it up and everything. Not that it's like super time consuming, but
but it's not. But you don't have to leave, and you don't have to have anybody that knows. Let's see.
Yeah, you don't have to grant them access to it, and you just have to obviously work on their permissions. But
right. You can just pull it up. You just click on an option, and it does take a little while to populate because it's pulling it from someplace else, but you can pull it over and you can see everything you need to see straight from within. Or you can, even for that matter, you can say the sales team can see it, or the admin can see it, but the sales team can't see it. So you can even limit within CRM which things they can see. I did include the cheat sheets. I want to show you that for a second. Let me pull this out of the way. And I kind of wanted to go over them very quickly just to show you. There are two different kinds of cheat sheets. And I show you this too because it's kind of like how we structured the Zoho One book, the Quick Study Guide. if it says this, it doesn't say admin. It means it's just basically end user, how to do it. Look up the client, select the client, click create new. It's everything that you need to know step by step on how to do stuff. There's notes like if it's a bill, that means it's a vendor invoice. It's not like you're billing somebody. Sometimes people will get confused with the words. So it's there to help your basic end users just perform separate kinds of tasks, how to enter a timesheet or something like that. But there's also what I would call admin cheat sheets, which is it really kind of goes through what each of the options mean and why it's important. It's kind of like so like if you create custom fields, like let's take this one. If you create custom fields, if you use the same name and field type as estimates and sales, then when you convert to an invoice, everything will be carried over. If you change the name a little, even like as much as a period, they won't go over. But if you keep exactly the same custom field name, so there's like tips like this that we like for people to know so that they can kind of understand what they're looking at when they're setting up all of their options inside of Zoho Books.
Yeah, for sure. And I know I've actually used it in the past whenever I was starting out, and it helped me out definitely. I'm not in the weeds every day, but helped me
Yeah.
out at the start. Yeah.
So I think probably I'm just going to stop screen sharing for a while.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and take control away, and then if there's a few questions in the questions panel,
Okay.
Susan. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm the one to answer them. I think they'd be better for you to answer. And
just go ahead and go down through. If there's one you
Yeah.
want to read live, Susan, well, you're
In
welcome to read it live. I have one comment. You were going through, and one of the common things that we hear is that somebody will say, "Well, our bookkeeper only knows QuickBooks."
Yeah.
Look, I taught QuickBooks for years. Look,
Yeah.
if they know QuickBooks, they can learn Zoho Books
It's not that hard
because it's much more clean. The interface is cleaner. The transactions are more straightforward. There's fewer kludges to get to the reports and things you're trying to get to. So if somebody's got QuickBooks down, they can easily learn Zoho Books.
Yeah.
I have seen cases where, honestly, in a company, a bookkeeper just refuses to move off a specific package. The case that I saw years back was actually Peachtree, and the company absolutely needed to move forward. So in that case, sorry to say, but sometimes in business, you're better off just to find somebody else that is willing to, to learn Zoho Books and move
if the
forward.
things I've shown you aren't an advantage to somebody,
Right.
Then it probably isn't worth it to change.
Right.
But there are a ton of advantages to making this switch. So whatever.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I see David ask about email. Certainly Zoho has its own email but it'll go out with a Zoho.com kind of email. So I think that, but you can integrate whether you have Outlook or you have G Suite or whatever. You can integrate any email software, and then when you send from CRM, it goes out using that software if you want to. So I'm a big fan of integration because that allows you everybody then in the team, if you want to see.
We were at dinner the other night too with one of my prior partners in K2, and he said, you guys at Zoho, in a way, you need to stop talking about integration, because when people hear the word integration, they think of all this grief they've got to go through to hook up everything. Truth is, folks, no, our stuff's already connected. It's more a matter of turning valves and switches.
It's turning it on.
Right. And allowing products to talk to each other, because they're already talking to each other. You're not developing APIs and fixing integrations. It's more of turning switches and valves and things like that to get things running. He was the same partner too that pushed us actually as a company towards Zoho Solutions. And one of the reasons I'm here is we fell in love so much with what Zoho Expense and what it solved for us, that we went out and did the campaigns thing. We're doing the CRM. I think that prior company now I was with is also doing books. They're getting off QBO. We were on Peachtree for years. I think they're getting off QBO because I think they found that made a mess in the accounting they were trying to do. So it's legit, folks. This whole integrated suite approach, even though we use the word integration, that doesn't mean there's grief in there. It means it's already talking with each other.
Yeah. I did launch the 9th poll question real quick. So what Zoho app could you see your company implementing? And kind of the same lines of Susan, what she was kind of going over. Looks like Finance Suite, CRM. It's a battle between Finance Suite and CRM, Susan. But I
Which
will.
one? What was the question? Which one
Just what Zoho app could you see your company implementing?
well, that's because the ones that said CRM already had integrated books.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But I would say, as far as
They're
yeah,
both.
Val's right about the whole integration
Yeah.
process. Very all built in internal
is.
apps, and the only application that would be take some time would be obviously when you start out with building up your CRM and your finance. So that's really the start of the journey. But once you get basically CRM and your finance suite up and going, it's really just a few clicks and you're ready to go. For example, I would say my technical background isn't the best, even though I did do accounting advisor. I know accounting platforms pretty well.
Mhm.
But whenever I had my CRM built and my demo account, it was just a few clicks and my analytics was up and running. And I was able
Right.
to build reports and kind of play around with it. And really just have analytics is such a fun tool. I think
It is.
I'm a little bit of a nerd, but I love kind of digging deep into stuff like that.
I
But yeah,
lost ability to do screen share, but if I could just tell a couple of these people where they can look for stuff, like Todd asked for where do you invoice for
well,
hours?
let
And
me.
so,
I'll share that with you.
Yeah,
We're
turn
not
it back on.
Yeah, because we had this session for 3 hours. We're probably won't hit 3 hours. We'll just be a little over 2.5. But I'll go ahead and give
okay,
this to Susan just so she can kind of help questions live. I didn't mean to take that away from
no,
you.
no worries. Accept.
Yeah, you have control now.
Yeah, we're fine on CPE hours already, Nathan. We're good based on the 58-minute hour. So
Yeah.
good.
So, and we see your screen.
Yeah, okay.
There we got it. Yep,
Yep.
we got it.
I have like 3 screens here. I've got to pull everything to the right one. So the one person asked about how to bill hours in Desk. So I'll do that one first. So usually when you're doing this, you'll I opened up the ticket. I don't know if you remember, I opened up the ticket for an additional book.
Mhm.
And rather than going here first, I'm going to go to here first and go to time entry. I mean, I think this is how I would do it. There's a couple of ways. That's a great thing about Zoho. There's a couple of ways you can do everything, but this is really going to be it. And so I can either notice that I have a timer up here that already started as soon as I opened the ticket and I was doing something. So I can add time entry here. I can, record it if I want to, and then once I've got it set, when I've added the time, I can add some here. Let's say task time entry. So you're just going to add it here, and then once it's added, then you can come over here to Zoho Books, and this was kind of where I was talking about it earlier. If it'll pop up here for a second, there's an option down here to create invoice, and when you start, if you've been recording your time on this ticket, then it'll ask you if you want to record that time. So I think it didn't because I'd already started another one, but it'll ask you if you want to record that time. So it's really easy, but most people will say, I want to have you're going to have some time entry because it's going to take me several sessions to handle this problem. I'm not going to bill for every time I work on it. I'm going to bill for it like at the end of the day or the end of the week or however I want to do it. Notice that I can also add task items as other items as well. So it's pretty easy from here. Somebody asked about, I have to pull it up again, but I think they asked about projects. In projects, let me go back for a second. When you're in a project, you can record time. So notice over here, I'm in this project and here's timesheets. And you can add time logs. So you can do weekly time logs or you can do daily time logs, just depending on how you want to do it. But you can just, select the project. I want to work it with this one. And you can put in, is this, what's the start and end time? You can do like that, or you can actually be a timer if you want to. Is it billable or not billable? Sometimes we just want them to know we spent to 30 minutes on this, but we're not going to bill them for it. So you can do both things.
Yeah.
And then you can add it. I can add notes. What did I actually do while I was there? I'm going to cancel out. But then the time logs can be used for billing to go. You can connect Zoho and Books to bill for the time logs if you want to. And so it's pretty easy. Again, sometimes people like to do a weekly time log so that they can do something like this. Maybe you would have different users because you have 5 people working on the project. We just have to select the project first. Let's take this one. And you have that many so I can pick for other people on the team if I'm reporting their hours. And again, it kind of goes over. Let me see if I can. Where was the other question?
Yeah, we'll do one more question.
Okay, is there an integration? Is there a difference in the integration between Stripe and Books and Authorize.net? I have that question a lot, to be honest. There is and there's not. Part of it has to do with. Oops, that's not the wrong one. Let me just open up Books. Part of it has to do with some of the credit card systems require that you have Authorize.net in addition. I'm not exactly sure why, they just do. But you can you can set it so that you can only do Authorize.net, or you can do Stripe or one of the other credit cards. It makes no difference. But as you create a new invoice, if you have multiple payment forms, you can at the bottom. I'll show you as you scroll down. I only have Stripe, but you can, if you have multiple payment forms, if I enable my Authorize.net, it'll be here so that the person can pay whichever way. The only thing to keep in mind is that I think it's Forte allows people to pay via ACH, and Stripe allows you to pay via ACH, but you have to do it through the portal only. So I don't know if that answers your question of what you were thinking about, but I think just the straight credit card is probably most all that you need for most systems.
Yeah. All right. See if you can pick up an easy one real quick, and then we'll go ahead and continue the session because we will be a little over.
Yeah, you can make the contract a recurring. There's a recurring invoice or monthly, and you can make it automatic so that it sends out, or you can make it so that you have to approve it before it gets sent out. But if it's like that, you might also want to look at subscriptions, to be honest.
Yeah, recurring.
Subscription.
Right.
Yeah,
it's kind of a toss-up on which thing you'd like. Subscriptions has the ability to say, I want a setup fee, and I want, whatever. There's other things that you can do. The subscription is really nice, though, because if the client puts a credit card on file, then it'll automatically do these things that'll remind them, hey, your credit card is about to expire. Wouldn't you like to, set it up and do some things like that?
Yeah.
So in the meantime, I'm trying to finish I will call it the expletive book, but it's actually the Zoho one book. Because
good luck, Susan.
I know. So we had it, we get it so close, and then dang it, if Zoho doesn't change something.
You better hurry, because
I
you
know.
never know with Raju. He's always up to something.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Or
problem.
they're going to add another app.
Yeah.
To the system. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I can take another one or not. But we're glad to help anybody with it. That's what we do. I will just tell you what I'm not, because Nathan said, oh, Susan's an accountant. I know a lot about accounting, but I don't ever want to present myself as an accountant. I help people set up, but I will not. I'm like, if somebody says, should we do this or this? I'm like, talk to your favorite accountant. I can talk to the accountant and tell them how to do it, but I don't get that kind of
I think
advice.
I want you to be an accountant. That's why I keep saying that.
No, I'm more of a setup and trainer person for all things Zoho. I am just enamored with it. I've worked with a lot of other softwares over the years, and I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the management team. If you guys have not worked a lot with management team, they are awesome. I think they have a really good vision of what's happening and what's going on, and in the business world. Like I'll just say this, they won't, Zoho people won't say it, I'll say this. there's always something about a software. You're like, well, if they would only do this, this one little thing, it would be perfect. But surprisingly, everybody's got this one thing that's every different. And I think that that's true of every software you will ever use. There's always going to be one thing that you wish it would do. But I think in the scheme of things, Zoho does a huge amount of things and just taking care of it.
Yeah, we always try to have our dev team improving the product as much as possible. And we take a lot of the feedback from our customers and our partners, especially not personally, but we take it and we try to improve our applications as much as we can.
Oh,
And
they do
I mean,
awesome.
looking at Zoho Books over the past 4 years, it's a completely different product. And
Oh, yeah.
we've just been improving it as much as we can. And definitely with Val and myself here, coming from that accounting background, we're able to kind of help the team realize what are some important things over here in the US, especially as far as like integrations, like how now we integrate with Sure Payroll, getting payroll in the docket and checking that box, and also just kind of the future, what we have coming forward for Zoho Books as well, which hopefully we can share some good news for accountants in the future whenever it comes to that. But I did launch the 10th poll question, and kind of what's like Susan said, she's here to help, and definitely with her material. She has a lot of stuff on our website as far as the books and Zoho One book coming out. And I put that in the chat, her webpage, but it's also in the handouts.
And it'll be sold on Amazon too. And
Amazon. Okay.
that's where we mostly sell.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So Susan, I really appreciate you kind of jumping on and
Sure.
showing us the big picture, what it looks like. And at the end of the day, we value partners like yourself where they go beyond the accounting platform, because a lot of times these businesses are kind of so focused on accounting and how do we keep track of, just our finances so that they can pay bills and have everything good to go. But hopefully through the past 3 days, you've been able to see how automation can really help you with that. And once you get everything going, I know it'll take some time to figure out kind of your roadmap on what you want to do. But that's why kind of Brett and myself and Susan and Val, we think it's pretty important to kind of reach out to someone just for advice. Obviously, there's a lot of free consultations out there where Susan would, I'm sure, be more than happy to kind of let you know. I mean, she's here right now.
Sure.
Not against her will, but
wait, Nathan, don't let them know we blackmailed her.
Yeah, that's why I told her not to roll up on the click chat. But yeah, so I just think that kind of free advice can help out so much, and it can go pretty far away. And at the end of the session, we'll have our contact information as well, to where you can reach out to us and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. And yeah, so Susan, you can stick around for the next 15 minutes if you'd like.
Sure.
But we're going to go over the next point of our agenda, which is the last part of the finance seminar, just kind of this finance partner program, Zoho partner program in general. And yeah, so we have some really good things going on, and Val and myself would kind of be heading this. But yeah, so introduction to the Zoho Finance Partner Program. How you can grow your firm with Zoho. And obviously, over the past 3 days, I feel like we've really shown the different avenues of what Zoho can do for customers, your clients, and really help out any small business. So we're here to help, and really here to help firms grow, because like we've been hammering this whole time, is Zoho has more than just a GL tool. And by us having more like CRM and all that stuff, we're really offering these value-added services. But there's also some other cool things as well at Zoho.
Another real good point here too, Nathan, is you can go out and sell and support this stuff with a pretty clear conscience, folks. What Zoho's priced at for features and capabilities and the direction of our ownership, a couple things are real important to know. We probably brought up at another time, but I'm going to go through them again. Zoho is a private company, okay? Privately owned private company, completely dedicated to privacy. So we don't sell any of our data. We don't even let us look internally in our data. And so we're not going to sell off data like a lot of the companies are doing. So you can have a clear conscience there. Secondly, price for value is huge. So that's a wonderful thing if you're consulting with clients and businesses. Don't let that lead you to believe that you've got to take your billing rate and drop it because the software is cheaper. No. Our partners get involved with this and really get going with this. And a number of them we've helped really, a couple of really surprised me this year, by the way, Nathan, how fast they've grown their revenue stream, and can be done because there are so many businesses out there right now, I'll be honest with you, that are shoehorned into accounting systems that are just either too small, or I also see the ones where they're just way overwhelming and too big. We do have a partner, just for grins and giggles, didn't speak this time around, but actually he takes folks off NetSuite and moves a lot of folks off NetSuite. Just recently learned of an SAP conversion going on. So even big software, Oracle, SAP, NetSuite, those folks coming down to our suite, most of those issues are functionality, believe it or not, and affordability. So yeah, there's those high-end apps, but often you spend a lot of money trying to fix that integration, even in their own suites. So you could be comfortable about with Zoho. So you would be able to grow your firm significantly with what we're offering today.
Before we kind of continue on, I'll launch the 11th poll question. And so, what is important to you when it comes to your accounting software? And obviously, we represent the finance suite, and so we think it's important to kind of show off books as much as we can. But in many ways, kind of through the past few days for the seminar, whenever we were planning the docket on who's presenting, what we're going to talk about, the big thing for us was the vast of applications that are built in-house by Zoho and how they kind of seamlessly integrate with each other. I know we don't necessarily like that word. We'll work on a new tagline for 2022 as far as integration, but so it looks like, everybody is kind of agreeing that more than one thing is the reason why, what they think is important to integrate into accounting software. So obviously cloud-based is important to people, ease of use. They definitely need an accountant edition out there, and they need an integration with other applications. So that's great to hear. And if you have anything else, I know no one checked the other, but if you have any others, just let us know in the chat. We love to hear it. And sometimes it gives us insight on what people are looking for that we're not necessarily thinking about. Because like I said, haven't been in the weeds for a couple of years now, and Val's been in accounting technology, but he's been focused on Zoho for a while. So we go to conferences, so we know the industry pretty well, but sometimes if a customer or a partner wants something different and we don't know about it, it's always great to hear about.
Yeah, that's when we go hunting. And usually internally, it doesn't take us long to go hunting. On our team, he's been really quiet today, but he's there to support folks. D-Raj on our team often is one of our go-to places. We have a team member that'll hunt down a lot of fires for us and figure stuff out. To be honest with you, there's not many situations we've had at all. And I've almost been here 3 years where I felt like we had to kind of walk away and just say, we can't really do that. We usually figure out something. Most all the time, it's internal and it's within our suite to solve the problems that our people bring to us.
For sure. And, whenever we're talking about what an accounting platform should look like as far as on the partner program, it's important nowadays in 2021 and now 2022 coming up around the corner, is you have to be able to work from anywhere, have remote work and take your practice to the cloud and share and collaborate. If you can share and collaborate with not only your employees, but what we've seen with the client portal, it can help your business out so much through communication. There's no communication issues anymore, kind of what Susan was showing earlier, as far as you can automatically email invoices out. If someone says, they didn't get it, you just send it to them, and it's easy collaboration. Also, with certain with tools talking to each other like Click and Books, you're able to see, if a client's viewed an estimate or if they viewed an invoice or if they paid it. So no more communication barrier. You have to write up this long email just asking about, check the status on something. It can be all done through automation. And obviously our accounting software, because it is cloud-based, it's automatically backed up. And what Val was talking about earlier, it is completely secure. And our data centers are actually hosted here in the US. And we'll kind of show you that map here in a little bit. And as far as whenever we're talking about what we do with our customers' information and our customer information, also like our client information, we are GDPR compliant, so we don't share any of that data. And it's just stored in-house, and we only use it for Zoho purposes. Actually, sometimes in marketing reasoning, they don't let us market to the same group over and over again, even for these webinars. We're kind of limited in that sense. So you're not going to get spam emails from a third-party application unless it pertains to a new integration or something like that. And so here's kind of the location of our data centers. As you can see, we have 2 in Washington and Dallas. I mean, we have 2 in the US, so Washington and Dallas. We are working on one in Canada for all those Canadians and other North Americans as well. And we are planning on doing a data center, I believe, on the East Coast. Am I right, Val?
I can't confirm East Coast yet. I know
It's
they are.
somewhere. They're
Yeah.
working somewhere else. I can't
Right.
remember.
They're considering Canada, and they've also got, actually, I think one that's going to come up quicker than any other is probably going to be Dubai, UAE, in that area. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. UAE is definitely growing
Oh,
substantially.
wow.
Yeah, as far
Yeah.
as customer base, but
Mhm.
also the US is not looking too shabby. And I'll kind of go over a little bit of our numbers later on, not necessarily US specific, but we can kind of talk about that. But what we've been talking about this whole time is going beyond the general ledger. You can easily seamlessly integrate with the Zoho applications. You can create and share your documents, which what we've shown throughout the session. Um, Definitely reducing those manual entries through automations, and you can combine data through analytics and really analyze what's going on, not only with your firm, but with your customers. And I really like the analytics functionality just because if you're doing accounting work, it really is that value added service that you can do for a lot of your businesses. And so you can run your entire business through Zoho. And this is what's pretty cool. Susan Clark, how she was saying in the beginning, they weren't necessarily using Zoho for everything, but now they've just seen the benefit of it. And now they're doing that for all their business functions is through Zoho. And whenever we're talking about Zoho by the numbers, this is kind of what I was talking about. This is actually a new number, Val. 75 million users. Robin gave me that the other day.
Right. Globally.
Yeah.
Which includes free accounts. It has free accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
But
does.
Yeah. So, I mean, whenever you're talking about a partner standpoint, the growth in the US is substantial. Our partners, for the most part, have work, up to their eyeballs. They're pretty busy, and they're not even necessarily even marketing. And I don't want to speak for Susan, but I know a few of them they're not even marketing. They're just getting a lot of their leads from internal sources or
Right.
other partners where
Growing
they
organically. A lot of growth, organic
organically.
growth. Right.
Yeah, and
So,
kind of it's been a crazy growth year in 2021 as far as what our applications have been doing, and definitely with Zoho One being kind of the flagship suite. It's been growing. I don't know the specific I don't know the specific number, but it's been crazy year-over-year growth. And over the past 3 years, it's been great to see Zoho One kind of grow. And right now, though, which is great to see, is Zoho Books is actually, I believe, our second most sold application, so right behind CRM. So it's growing at a great rate as well. So there's not a lot of partners out there who. So basically, there's just a lot of ways for you to grow your firm through Zoho. And we have over 9,000 employees, so we're able to really help out through support with our partners and also with our customers. And we've been doing this for over 25 years. So we're not new to the game in the software world. We've actually started a lot of the innovation you've seen with cloud-based collaboration tools. Kind of what Val was talking about earlier is privately owned. So we're not going to just do a curveball on you just to try to make more money.
Mhm.
And we actually didn't raise prices since the beginning of time.
Yeah, well, that last price increase was the first big one, right? And they
Yeah.
even did it really as carefully and as conscientiously as they could, giving customers that already had pre-existing agreements honored those pre-existing agreements, and also gave them time to grow into that price change if they didn't have that pre-existing agreement. I don't think I've ever seen a company more carefully move prices up like what they did with this price increase.
Mhm.
That's what I was gonna say. They've been super great about not raising prices like a lot of customers. I mean, like what somebody moved to us from QuickBooks like last week because they were complaining about how many price increases they'd gotten from QuickBooks in the last even month or two.
Yeah, yeah.
And Zoho's really great. And like you say, they honor the legacy partners with pricing
Yeah, yeah.
for a long time. So
Yeah. And with inflation going on right now, and it's kind of, the uncertainties in the world, it's great to just
yeah,
be behind a company that is, willing to stand behind the customers, the loyal customers, and also our new customers who come in.
and
And
you were talking about. I just wanted to throw out one other thing about how people get their leads. I mean, we've been doing it for a long time, so we get referrals, but actually Zoho's done very well in the trades lately, where they're
Right.
showing, books or CRM or some of the other products in comparison to competition, and they've gotten really great reviews. And when I first started, a lot of people didn't know. They'd say, "I never heard of Zoho,"
Yeah. What's a
but
Zoho? We still
yeah,
get that. Yeah.
but I don't get it nearly as
Right.
much as I used to, like,
Mhm.
not nearly. And a lot of people will come to us because, I mean, because they can find us on the website somewhere. But they come to us because they have other people that they know in their sphere that are using Zoho and have recommended it. So they're getting recommendations from their peers as well. So I just want to throw that it's not
Yeah,
nearly
no,
like it used to
yeah.
be.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I appreciate that, Susan. And whenever I started out, I didn't know what Zoho was really. Oh, actually, I didn't. And then I had to do a bunch of research. And actually, not a joke, but I actually used Zenatta's YouTube channel to kind of help me before an interview.
It's a great channel.
And yeah, because Zoho can be pretty overwhelming if you're new to it, and because we just have so many solutions. And what I tell a lot of my partners, new partners, is kind of just focus on one app, one group of applications. And you look at this and you kind of think, oh my goodness, what's going on? We show this slide a bunch, but we have different buckets. So obviously we have our finance, which we represent. We have our sales and marketing, IT, custom solutions, email and collaborations, human resources. So we really touch everything. And whenever you're just now starting out your partnership within Zoho, focus on the core applications that your business succeeds at. So obviously, we're here talking to accountants, and we could be talking to marketing as well, sales and marketing. But just focus on the core apps and understand those. And once you get those, you can kind of branch out to the other apps. And so, yeah, so like I said, focus on that Zoho Finance suite, and hopefully, the past 3 days you've been able to see the benefit of kind of getting on Zoho Books and integrating with our inventory tool, our expense tool, and subscriptions as well. There's a lot of great resources out there, and we're here to help, and we're happy to help. Really, that's our job, is to help. And really, what's so great is how Zoho One is how you have all those solutions under one belt. But like I mentioned, you it's great to just focus on one application and kind of grow from there, and you can really grow your firm that way. Kind of more to the Zoho One is we have everything from sales, marketing, finance, all the way to collaboration tools. So definitely advise you to check that out as you start getting more comfortable.
And on the Zoho One thing too, a lot of people might sign up for that and say, "Well, I'm only using 4 or 5 apps." You're still getting a very great offer because you do the 4 or 5 apps and other solutions that aren't really integrated, and you're going to be paying way more than that.
Mhm.
And so, look, I've had people say, "Well, I feel guilty. I'm only using part of Zoho One." Give it time. You use a lot more.
Yeah.
It grows on every company. You'll start with an app or two, and then you add another app, and then you add another app and another app.
Yeah.
I think the most I've seen is maybe about 25 apps of the suite used, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
and talking with our users. So it's
Yeah.
a great offer. Zoho One
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, yeah. And whenever we're talking about the kind of the seamless integrations, if you wanted, say, if you had Slack and you wanted to connect it to CRM or another tool, it wouldn't be as easy as Susan kind of showed you. And whenever we're talking about other solutions, like our competitors out there, essentially you're having to purchase all these different applications from. I don't want to necessarily name any names, but you have to purchase a different CRM tool, then you have to purchase a different collaboration tool, and then a different accounting tool, unless you go to big ERP systems. So really, that's what's so great about Zoho. And whenever we're talking about the partner program, we do have dedicated partner support. You're able to get free access to Zoho, so Zoho One in particular. So you're able to use that as a trial account, play around with it, or use it for your own personal business. And you can earn more with Zoho with our revenue sharing program. And it's been pretty substantial for a few of our partners. Definitely once they start getting the ball rolling, and I'm really happy to see them grow, kind of like what Val was talking earlier. Some besides their consultation fees they have, they're also able to earn through Zoho and kind of grow their partnership with us that way. And that kind of leads us to our last slide, which is really just more about how you can learn more. And that's just head on over to zoho.com/CPA. And Val, I'll let you kind of share more about this.
Folks, we had to kind of pick a domain. We're one of the few groups at Zoho that has our own site or domain. And so we picked a abbreviation CPA. I'm a CPA, but this place is not just for CPAs. Okay. It's for all that are doing bookkeeping, accounting, like enrolled agents, others. And you can become a Zoho advisor in our program here and become one of our partners and share revenue with implementations that you put in place. We'll be happy to share that all with you on a one-on-one basis. But our revenue share, to be honest with you, is very generous, and it's many more years than right now than what Intuit and others are often, through their cloud-based licensing. So come check this out. We try to focus it in, we have to kind of still represent all, what did you say now, 50-something apps?
About
but
50.
Still categorize it to the point where you're not getting completely, glassy-eyed and lost and everything. So we've tried to categorize a few things and give you a few ideas. But this is a site.
Yeah. So I did just launch the last poll question, just asking if you would like us to reach out to you about the partner program. You don't get fished into any Zoho email campaigns. It's really just my connection. I'll reach out to you and just have a connection. You can just save my information and reach out at any time. Or we'd be happy to help out. Or if you just want our contact information, here it is right here. If you do have any requests, just tag us all in the email. We'd be happy to help you out and point you in the right direction. And if you're a customer, definitely happy to help you out and point you in the right direction too. Our engineers are also our great partners like Susan, who would be happy to help and kind of share. I don't want to say be cheesy, but the joy of Zoho. And also there's a meeting today. You can do that right there. And we'd be happy to just jump on the call and kind of help you out. I know the holidays are coming up, the New Year's coming up. So just happy to have a conversation before we get bogged down. And so again, I want to say thank you for everybody joining the finance seminar. It was a great session. I thought we had some great sessions where we learned not only about our finance applications, but apps outside of the finance suite, like analytics and CRM, like Susan went through just now. And I appreciate everybody who was involved. Obviously, Val, you helped out a ton with this seminar, and D-Raj, who's kind of in the background today, but not necessarily on the first day. And great partners like Susan, who kind of came on and helped us out by putting together this great presentation. But Val, I'll let you kind of close it off and then end the session.
Thank you all so much for being here. Susan, really appreciate your time. Everyone on this team this year did a bang-up job, I think, and we're going to go back and look at the evaluations and see what we can do next. We'll do something like this. Last year we'd hoped to do it at least a couple times in the year, but we'll do this for sure at least annually. And we do have monthly webcasts that Nathan will be emailing you about as well that we're going to be doing. Got a really good one coming up in January. I guess we can announce that. Avalara is going to get us another.
Yeah, Avalara. Sales tax update.
Really great one there too. So come join us. Anyway, it's been wonderful. Thank you. Have a happy holidays.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks, Susan. I hope you have a good day. And I'll see you, Susan, here in a few days, I guess. I'm going to come down to Houston. But
all right, sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. And I'm going to end the session now. If you need the CP, please fill it out, the evaluation, and also fill out the evaluation and let us know what you would like to see next and the kind of the text area. But I appreciate everybody. Y'all take care and happy holidays.